Many years ago, a boy with only one hand was born in a noble family. His parents named him Davin, but they never even once liked him. They called him a disgusting thing and secretly hoped him to die. However, that little child's will to live was too strong. On the same day, his cousin named Kajin was born completely healthy, and everyone immediately saw his potential to become genius. Davin's father wanted him to be better swordsman than Kajin so they could prove themselves, but it was impossible as our boy was physically weaker compared to Kajin. Growing up, he always crawled behind Kajin, and when everyone adored his cousin, no one liked Davin, not even his mother. No matter what he did, whether walking for the first time or using the sword, he was always behind Kajin, so it's no wonder his parents wished Kajin was their child instead of Davin. Seeing this, our boy couldn't help but to be jealous of his cousin. At the age of 7, he was sent alongside Kajin as his attendant, but later he found out his parents had sold him for 300,000 luden. In the passing years, Kajin treated him like a slave and used to beat him a lot. Though our boy tried to hold back the tears, the pain was too unbearable to control. In that place, no one tried to save him and made him feel like he didn't even exist. As for Kajin's father, although he was very famous among others, many years ago he just vanished into thin air with nowhere to be found. With no father on his side, growing up Kajin became a bully. He never showed even a little bit of sympathy to anyone, so it would not be wrong to say that the blessing of the sword god was like a poison within him. Davin also tried his best to become strong, and during his fights with Kajin, he struggled to win but never once succeeded, since he wasn't on Kajin's level, and worse, he was handicapped. Although Davin was his cousin, Kajin never once showed sympathy towards him, which made our hero even more desperate to win against him. Growing up, Davin worked really hard while Kajin got into bad habits, but defeating his cousin was still a far-off dream. Still, our boy was determined that one day, he would definitely surpass Kajin. Years later, at the age of 29, both cousins came against each other once again in an official battle. In the present time, Davin and Kajin are fighting against each other, and as the fight continues for a while, our protagonist finally, after years of struggles and endurance, wins against his high and mighty cousin. In the past, when he used to lose against Kajin, people used to advise Davin to drop this impossible dream of winning, but now he finally proved his worth as the crowd began to shout his name. Glaring at each other, Kajin's pride isn't letting him endure the fact he has lost against his weak cousin, while our hero is reminiscing about the time with his parents who used to envy Kajin's parents. Looking at him, Davin advises his cousin that he couldn't have wasted his time in bad habits, and as he walks away, Kajin stands, saying he can't lose. Therefore, he passes the sword right out of the chest of our boy from his back. As the blood splashes out of his body, the crowd looks at the scene in disbelief. Though Davin is sure that he wouldn't survive anymore, the fact of winning against Kajin for the first time is enough for him. Though the great sword Sunblade, which contains the mana, can save him, for this, Saint Layla must appear, which isn't possible. Looking back at his cousin, he gives him a death glare, saying from now on, everyone will call Kajin a loser. After some time, our protagonist wakes up in a cell and finds himself tied to a chair. He wonders whether he is in hell. Suddenly, a gigantic man with his face covered appears in front of him and calls him lucky, because the miraculous Saint Layla was actually present there when Kajin tried to kill him. Though it was a very rare miracle, the saint actually healed Davin and saved him from dying. It means our boy is still alive, but he feels something odd about his body. The man claims it seems like he signed a contract with the devil, about which our hero knows nothing. So the man further explains, winning against Kajin gives a clear sign about it, and even his parents agree. So Davin realizes that it was actually his parents who signed the contract on his behalf. That devilish man further claims they have all the proofs about it in Davin's own house, which clearly shows that our protagonist has killed 300 children to become strong. This is the reason why Kajin stabbed his own cousin, to kill a devil like Davin for the honor of the Samian family. As a smile appears on our boy's face, he realizes that his parents have already chosen Kajin over their own son. Moving on, the gigantic devil punishes our hero with a lifetime prison sentence. After this, they put him into the prison after cutting the tendons of his legs and arms and sealing the mana too. In this instance, Kajin again appears in front of him, boasting about becoming a sword emperor. Once Kajin left, they started giving Davin even less food, so our protagonist started to get even weaker. He is regretting not dying in the arena because that would have been very honorable. While lying on the floor, our boy is thinking about that perfect life if he was normal like his cousin. He wonders if his life really would have been different, if he could really make his parents proud. But now it seems like he is dying, but he doesn't want to die like this. In this struggle, Davin's eyes close as if he is dying, but then golden light emerges, a sign that our hero hasn't died yet, not today at least. After some time, someone, while calling our hero Vincent, shakes his right arm really hard. Feeling the pain in his right arm, our protagonist can't believe it, so he opens his eyes in a sudden moment and finds himself standing in front of a man who belongs to one of the branch families. Though he is confused about what is happening around, but somehow he knows that he is Vincent, seventh son of the Adenka family. Everything feels very odd yet realistic to him. Our hero is misunderstanding it as a dream about having his right arm before dying. Meanwhile, the man, being left with no option, tries to put pain on him using the mana, but our hero is familiar with it. He simply pushes him away, but that man flies over and hits a pillar. Vincent begins to apologize, and moving towards him, he passes a hand to help the man. Pushing his hand away, the man rejects it, saying he can't simply use force on anyone just because he is more powerful than others. Furthermore, he challenges our hero to stay prepared to lose against his son. Hearing the words, our hero's father comes into his mind, a man who always wanted to win against his elder brother, and once he couldn't fulfill it, he passed the whole burden onto his son. Meanwhile, the man, walking away, claims that he is going to teach him a lesson on the day of the assembly of the true swords. Our protagonist is now sitting on a chair with eyes closed as he is trying to wake up from this dream, but he keeps getting back the memories of Vincent, the real owner of this body. Vincent's mother passed away after giving birth to him, so his father started to dislike him, while all the other children of his family used to laugh at him. Though he is the seventh son of the family, he isn't even brave enough to say anything to Loa, who is the eighth daughter, younger than him. Since everyone disliked him from his family, the branch families also vent their anger onto him, so he became a prey for everyone. Soon our hero realizes about his reincarnation in this body, but he isn't satisfied about it as Vincent is also a loser and a laughingstock just like Davin from his past life. Looking around the room, he finds a personal diary of the real Vincent. In the diary, he has written about being very weak in front of other siblings and how everyone including the servants looks down at him, so he just wishes himself to die. Reading it, our hero realized how discouraged Vincent was due to this pathetic life, and maybe this is the reason he ended it. Putting back the diary, he congratulates Vincent because Destiny once listened to their prayers too. Because Davin was desperate to live while Vincent always wanted to die, so their wishes got fulfilled. At this moment, our boy hears a voice asking if he really believes in such things. Upon hearing this, our boy starts to look around in order to find who is inside the room. Our protagonist thinks it is a demon who is trying to do this because he wasn't meant to be reincarnated like this. But then the other voice claims he shouldn't think so deeply, because he is no one else but the real owner of this body, Vincent. But since he has given his body to him, from now on, he should call him Julian. Moving on, he appears in front of our boy, flying in the air. Seeing him, our boy gets very confused, so Julian claims this is actually a revelation which only a god can give to humans, and only a god can have it by birth, which means Julian is actually a god. Even though he doesn't deny it, he claims he is just a minor god. He explains the reason that initially he was created to call forth a spirit god, but then he went inside his body, and now if he wants to become a true god, he will have to achieve plenty of success, which is known as calling, and once he completes it, he will become a real god. Though our hero appreciates him for giving him a new life, he refuses to help him because this life, he will not waste it unlike the last one. Hearing this, Julian tells him about his spiritual energy which is very low, which means his body will die really soon. Looking at his body, Vincent doesn't think anything will happen to it, but at this exact moment, his body becomes numb, so he falls on the floor. After this, Julian begins showing him the memories of real Vincent where everyone calls him trash and hits him mercilessly. Vincent, a 13-year-old kid who is desperate to get his revenge, seeing his memories and hearing his thoughts, our hero is visibly shocked and terrified. After seeing all this, our hero is finally ready to hear him. As he sits on the chair, Julian questions him about the archdemon Davin and the hero king Kajin. Hearing him call himself a demon while his cousin a hero, our protagonist becomes very furious. Ignoring his anger, Julian begins to explain the story which occurred exactly 500 years ago. The one-armed Davin, who was imprisoned by his own family, escaped and, as per his contract, killed around 10,000 innocent people to become the strongest. Therefore, he is known as Archdemon Davin. But our hero, who is actually the real Davin, doesn't believe this story because he would never think of doing such a thing. Yet, if the story about Kajin and Davin is really true, and they were the sons of the Samian family, this means he is that famous archdemon Davin. The last thing our protagonist remembers from his past life is dying in that prison, so he is getting confused. Not believing this story, our boy thinks his family made it up so everyone would remember him as a monster, while his cousin Kajin was the hero. But no one knows the reality is actually the other way around. In a fit of anger, he bangs the table with his hand forcefully. Even Julian believes in this story as he says hero Kajin was the true friend of Davin. But the reality is, Kajin always bullied him. Vincent can't bear it anymore and yells at him. Julian asks the reason behind this sudden anger. Our protagonist says it is because this story is nothing but a lie. Hearing this, Julian says if he is so confident, it means he is from that age. So he calls our boy an old man and also suggests that he calm down. Further, he adds that history is just a mix of stories left by the victors, so he shouldn't think so much about it. Hearing such words from a 13-year-old kid, our hero isn't believing it, but Julian claims the world is very different from 500 years ago, so he will find many things that will appear strange to him. Though annoyed by this story, he sits back in the chair as Julian explains further. After that, King Kajin, along with his best friend, the Sun Sword Emperor, killed the archdemon Davin. Our protagonist never heard about the Sun Sword Emperor, so he questions Julian about him. Julian answers that his name is Arslan, the ancestor of the Adenka family. Hearing the name, Vincent remembers that little boy, so a smile appears on his face. That boy was very fond of our hero in the past and once told him about his desire to become like him. Seeing the admiration in Arslan's eyes, Davin took him as his own little brother, because he never thought someone could actually admire a handicapped like him too. Arslan even visited him in the prison and always encouraged him that the truth would come out one day, because he believed that Davin could never do such a heinous thing. He remembers the day when Arslan came to him for the last time and was desperate to prove our hero's innocence, but after that, he never saw him again. Julian further explains that his dream is somehow related to Arslan's, which is taking over the Samian family and facing reality. The idea of finding the truth keeps turning over in our boy's mind, because in his last meeting with Arslan, he said the same thing. Our hero thinks it could be a coincidence, but every hint is leading him to the fact that Arslan Falker left his family and founded the Adenka family to face the real truth. It means this family was created just to prove the innocence of our protagonist. So Davin, now Vincent, finally finds that the purpose of being reincarnated into this family is to get back his true honor. Moving on, he questions Julian whether his calling is to fulfill his family's mission, and once he completes it, will he really become a true god? Agreeing with it, Julian adds that if he succeeds, not only will he gain this body permanently, but he will receive blessings from him as well. Walking forward, our hero takes out a sword hanging on the wall and thanks Arslan for giving him an opportunity to take down the family that always disregarded him and for giving him a chance to become a part of his family. Now Vincent is going out, while Julian, who is behind our protagonist, calls him an old man and asks where he is going. Hearing this, Vincent yells not to call him an old man, so Julian calls him brother, which sounds very pleasing to our hero. Amid their conversation, they hear some noises and, as they look in that direction, they find armored soldiers practicing on the ground. Looking at them, Vincent wonders how much their fighting style has changed and how strong the Samion family has become by now. He is excited to face them again, but then he starts feeling dizzy and falls to the ground. At night, our boy is sitting in his room, providing strength to his body, because the body he is reincarnated into is very weak and requires plenty of mana to control it. But then he feels something about mana flow within his body, so he calls Julian to talk about it. Within a few seconds, Julian, wearing a night suit, appears in front of him. Upon his arrival, our protagonist, while holding him by the shoulder, begins shaking him, asking him the reason behind not learning swordsmanship. Julian answers that, by birth, he had some disability due to which he couldn't learn it, but our hero claims he has a heavenly exoskeleton body, which means learning swordsmanship would have been a plus point for him. Julian gets angry since he doesn't understand the reason behind Vincent yelling at him like that. Therefore, our protagonist explains that having such a skeleton means he can store mana anywhere in his body, even in the bones, but Julian is still confused about it. So Vincent further explains that in martial arts, a person is capable of possessing more strength than normal due to mana, and miracle-causing mana is stored in the heart, but someone with a heavenly exoskeleton can store this miracle mana in his bones too, which means such a person can have unlimited mana. Vincent further adds, Kajin, who is famous as the king hero, also possessed the same body as him. It feels so weird to our hero that after 500 years, he got reincarnated into a body similar to Kajin's, the one he was jealous of his whole life. Julian says he is going to explain to him one more time that he can't link the imagery to the heart. But being unfamiliar with the new world, our protagonist knows nothing about imagery. So Julian, though annoyed, begins to explain. Imagery is an imaginary storage of mana. Hearing this, our boy flusters up because if they don't use the heart to store mana, then what about the meditation method? Apparently Julian doesn't know about this meditation method. Since there is a huge difference between their ages, both are unfamiliar with each other's era's methods. Vincent states that Arslan Falker was professional in the meditation method, and as for the new method, Julian claims they store mana through imagery and call each one a star, and the number of these stars defines the strength of the martial artist. As for storing mana in the body, they abandoned this method long ago. Our hero seems very disappointed, but ignoring it, he begins to think about this imagery method, and the requirements to get one star is linking the imagery. Vincent realizes why they found a new method, because the last one was very risky, and many martial artists died due to sudden bursts inside their heart. Though knowing all these risks, our boy begins to store the mana in his heart, so Julian starts panicking, but our protagonist assures him not to worry about it. Vincent is professional in this method from his past life, but since Julian doesn't know it, he is yelling at him, trying to make him stop, saying he should at least follow the circulate formula. Hearing this, Vincent stops and inquires about that method. He claims just letting the mana circulate in the body is very risky, but our hero states, during his age, no one followed any method, though half died. but half survived too, which means he also has the chance of survival. Now Vincent lies on the bed to take some rest, while Julian yells to treat his body gently. Our boy questions if he is really worried about his body, then why he made it so weak. Because his body is quite strong, and with a rare skeleton, he can store a high amount of mana too, which means he could have surpassed the Samyeon family easily. Such a type of rare skeleton requires mana, while his body is yearning for it for the past 13 years. This shows the clear signs that his body will die even more reaching adulthood. Once Julian is gone, our protagonist is working on the meditation method, which can stop the body from dying for a certain period, and the maximum he can get is 10 years. But our hero thinks 10 years is more than enough to prove his worth. He remembers the 10 years of his past life too, when he was imprisoned, starved, and left dying while he was praying to stay alive. Those 10 years had a horrible impact on our boy's mind. The whole night has passed, but our protagonist is still sitting there, meditating when a servant knocks on the door furiously, and then, with a bang sound, opens the door and enters the room. Seeing the bad condition of the room, he begins to worry about what actually happened here overnight. Standing up, Vincent questions whether he is a servant while he is also trying to find his information in his memories. The servant, though shocked, answers yes. Vincent finally remembers his name, Wilson. After this, our hero takes off his clothes and throws them towards Wilson and orders him to bring new clothes and clean the room too. Holding his clothes, Wilson thinks something seems suspicious about him. Moreover, physically he appears strong too. Ignoring it, he questions the young master the reason behind the condition of his room and asks if he did some kind of experiment here. But our protagonist in ignorance answers no. As Julian told him earlier, the real Vincent was a weakling and even the servants never respected him. So Wilson also begins yelling at our boy and calls him mad too. Furthermore, he claims it looks like he has learned some kind of black magic which he is going to report to the Grand Chamberlain. Walking towards him, Vincent claims he should follow the orders of his master, but it's bold of him to question his own master and even threaten him too. Vincent glares at him while again ordering him to do the work he just told him. But Wilson yells he has told him before too. He doesn't like doing such chores. Interrupting him, our hero claims he is a servant and obeying his master is his only priority. After this, he snatches the clothes from Wilson, saying he will ask the Grand Chamberlain to get him clothes, and he will also tell them the reason behind it, that his servant isn't willing to fulfill any of his orders. Hearing this, Wilson gets scared and takes back the clothes out of the hands of our boy, saying he will definitely wash them and clean the room too so he doesn't have to go anywhere. Julian is also present there, watching the whole situation, so our protagonist claims he will teach a lesson to everyone here and show them a real 7th young lord of Adenka. But Julian is worrying about Wilson, who is a criminal and has a record of killing countless people. Unlike him, Vincent thinks he is just a coward and is lying about killing people. Julian, while laughing, states why he is so sure about it. Our hero, while looking into his eyes, claims he has actually lived such a kind of life so he knows about it. Now Julian is getting scared of our hero and thinks whether he has summoned a demon instead of a spirit king inside his body. The next day, Wilson comes back with the washed clothes Vincent gave him yesterday, his face showing angry expressions. Wilson asks our hero about his opinion on how he cleaned the room, so our hero thanks him. Moving on, he pleads with Vincent not to make such a mess next time. Seeing him acting so confident, Wilson thinks he will get nothing no matter how he behaves in front of others. As the scene proceeds, Vincent orders his servant to bring him a wooden sword, and as for the requirements, he wants it to be 1 meter long, weigh about 500 grams, and asks for the wood material to be black-scented wood. Wilson, with a grin on his face, questions what if he refuses to obey his command. In answer, Vincent stands up and begins to walk, stating he can get it too, but before that he will have to answer the storeroom guard about him going there in person. Apparently, these guards are actually martial artists who are very loyal to the nobles. Wilson, like yesterday, again gets scared, and in order to stop him, he puts his hand on our boy's shoulder. Due to his muscle memory, Vincent throws him over the ground and then apologizes for doing so, but he can't help it due to memories of getting attacked from behind. Wilson, aching in pain, claims he doesn't remember any such incident happening to him. Meanwhile, our protagonist turns his back towards him since his new body is very weak and can't handle this much use of strength, so it is visible on his face which Vincent is trying to hide from Wilson. As the servant stands up, he was about to say something abusive about our hero, but upon being asked by Vincent, he stops and starts asking about the requirements of the sword calmly. After this, he goes out of the room to get the sword and shuts the door loudly due to anger, but then comes back and apologizes for it. The servant is quite furious with our hero, so he wants to teach him a lesson. After some time, though he brought a sword, it doesn't fulfill the requirements, so instead of taking it, Vincent begins telling him about the story of someone he knows who was handicapped from the right arm and led a terrible life. Even the ending was horrible. Hearing this, Wilson gets really frightened and hands over the sword which our protagonist actually wanted. After this, he takes his leave. Once Wilson is gone, our boy, looking at the sword, is ready to start his training. After some time, in the training ground, Vincent is training with his sword. Since the body is weak, he has gotten tired after only a few attempts, which means he is going to struggle a lot in order to get the strength just like from his past life. But being able to use a sword like this, our hero feels quite good. In this instance, someone cuts off the training dummy on which our protagonist is practicing, and then, boasting his strength, apologizes for it, saying he couldn't sense his mana since it is very low. With complete annoyance, Vincent asks about him. The boy answers, he is Revan Adenka and he also knows him. Weakling Vincent. At this moment, Julian starts telling our hero through his mind that Revan is a collateral descendant. He also claims he will win the Assembly of True Swords. He is the son of that man Vincent met a few days ago, which our boy remembers clearly since he first met that man after reincarnation. Julian suggests our protagonist stay careful because he is quite a strong and skilled swordsman. Meanwhile, Revan claims he is here to meet him, because after the Assembly of True Swords, they'll definitely come against each other. As for the Assembly of True Swords, it is a competition against the children of martial families from the Adenka family, a fight of real swords. Even though there is no age limit, the players participate around the age of 14. The winning provides them a chance to fight against the Adenka's direct descendants of the same age. It means someone will get a chance to fight against him, Vincent, who is known as the weakest among other descendants. Revan laughs off at the weakness of our boy and advises him to stay prepared. But our hero claims he isn't scared of anyone, so Revan starts to laugh even louder. Seeing him disrespecting like this, our hero gets furious because, in his past life, Davin, though handicapped, was respected by everyone, even Kajin. Not accepting it, Vincent calls Revan a shame to the martial artists, which makes Revan fluster, so both start to argue about it. Looking at the situation, Julian advises our boy not to clash with him, since at the moment he is way stronger than him. In answer, our protagonist states he clearly knows it, but he can sense inferiority within him which shows he was raised like this. Our hero thinks both Revan and his father are not like real martial artists. He is actually comparing them to the martial artists from 500 years ago. After this, Vincent points the sword at him, saying such disrespectful children used to get beaten by the elders in the past. In return, Revan also points a sword towards our boy. Though Revan is sure that he can win against our protagonist, still he is getting afraid of him somehow. With a smirk on his face, Vincent states he doesn't know how he will fight in the competition when he is getting afraid of a wooden sword. As our hero mocks him, Revan gets furious and dashes towards our boy with the thought of finishing him off at this moment. Though Revan is coming to attack him, our hero isn't getting scared, not even moving away, while Julian is panicking about it. At this moment, Revan's servant stops him from behind, so Julian sighs with a sense of relief. Though Revan is determined to kill our protagonist at the moment, his servant suggests he should wait until the competition because then he can fight without any problem, but now he will get into a huge problem. Being left with no option, Revan stops and challenges our hero to meet on the day of the competition where he will teach him a real lesson. At night, back in Vincent's room, Julian is asking him the reason why he acted like this with Revan. Our protagonist answers that he was just trying to teach him manners, so Julian flusters up because he wanted a spirit king in his body. Instead, he got a crazy spirit. Looking at the books, our boy claims this is the main reason for him trying to learn about this new world. At this moment, he finds a picture of himself on one page and gets very curious, but Julian snatches it from him, saying they have more important things to discuss like blessings and traits. Moving back to the real conversation, Julian is telling our hero about the traits which they created artificially, simply known as a man-made blessing. Hearing this, our protagonist gets extremely terrified because the thing he knows is, if humans create a blessing, they are punished by the gods. Turning his head the other way, Julian claims he is also a god, and our boy has disrespected him, but he should be thankful to him that he hasn't given him any punishment. Moving onwards, our hero adds that if he remembers, then Revan has a trait too, which is something called Steel Man. Julian explains this trait mainly focuses on the strengthening of the body. Moreover, it is a medium-level trait, especially defensive and destructive. So our hero thinks he doesn't need martial practice, but Julian claims with it, he can even get stronger. Remembering the way Revan sliced that dummy, Vincent can't deny the fact that Revan is actually stronger and more powerful than others of his age from our protagonist's old era. Now, if he really wants to win against them and prove himself, he must practice every skill. The next day, our hero goes back to the training ground for training, while others are gossiping about him, looking down at him. In this instance, someone appears from behind, asking them to shut up, the vice captain of the White Sword Unit Merlin, saying there is nothing weird about it so they shouldn't look down at the young master. After apologizing, those servants ran away from the scene. Although Merlin said this loudly, looking at our hero, he also thinks of him as a shame of this family, nothing else. Though our hero doesn't care about what others think, Julian is feeling embarrassed, so he suggests practicing in a forest. In answer, our protagonist thinks they don't have to go this far. Moreover, he doesn't feel bad about it since he used to feel inferior to others. In his past life, when everyone looked down and insulted him since he was one-armed, he turned it into his strength and proved them wrong. So this time too, he believes in himself. After practicing for a while, our hero is completely tired, so someone passes him an advanced recovery potion. It is the Vice Captain Merlin who advises Vincent to drink it, which will give him strength. Taking the bottle, our protagonist asks about his introduction. As he introduces himself, our hero asks him why he isn't looking down at him like others. Merlin answers, though he did at first, but after seeing the desperation in his eyes, it feels shameful to laugh at such a determined martial artist. Looking at him, Vincent claims he will definitely remember him, and then suggests him go since it looks like he was on patrol. While going, Merlin looks back and wishes good luck to our protagonist. After that, the whole day, our hero practiced on the dummy while he drank that potion in intervals. At night he studied with the help of Julian. Our hero remembers the way he felt mana in his heart when he was desperate to beat Kajin. Now in this life he is determined to feel the mana again. And finally, after struggling for days, our hero was able to cut down the dummy using the wooden sword and his mana. Meanwhile, our protagonist takes a lot of work from Wilson too, as he has ordered him to bring him breakfast at 5 in the morning. Wilson is quite furious with our hero, so he thinks of a plan to teach his young master a lesson. The scene shifts to Vincent's room. Wilson is putting the breakfast in front of him, and as he takes off the cover from the plate, the main course isn't there, only the side dishes. But our hero can see the little chunks of food on Wilson's face, so he suggests he should wipe it off after eating someone's food so they won't get suspicious of you. For now, he is letting go of this matter, but he doesn't want it to happen again. In order to scare our hero, Wilson starts to tell him the story about killing people, but since Vincent knows the reality, he just laughs it off. Using the mana, our protagonist says it from his mind to Wilson's mind, without speaking, that he isn't scared of him. Moreover, he can also use his powers, but Wilson should be grateful that he isn't using them. Wilson can't believe it since Vincent wasn't able to use mana till recently, and now all of a sudden he can even do telepathy. After this, our hero offers him to join his side, because sooner he is going to be very famous among others, so he will be proud of his master, and this time will arrive soon. While walking out of the room, Wilson, though scared, claims he will never become loyal to him, but Vincent's charm, he can't deny it. Meanwhile, in the training ground, Merlin is looking for our hero but couldn't find him. Then he sees the half-cut scarecrow and wonders if he cut it with some blade because it appears quite distinct. But as far as he knows, the young master only uses the wooden blade, so he wonders what kind of martial art the young master is working on. The next day, our hero is getting ready while Wilson, who is also in the room, is folding his clothes. Seeing the change in Wilson, Julian is quite happy and appreciates Vincent for changing him. Turning towards Wilson, our protagonist begins to complain about the state of his clothes, saying that they aren't worthy enough to be worn by a noble. And as for food, he thinks it's always very low quality. Even Julian is confused about it, so Vincent explains that someone is stealing money, and therefore he is doubting his servant. But Wilson is just confused about the situation, so it doesn't appear like he is embezzling it, but our hero knows he must find the person behind it. Meanwhile, Revan in his room is also practicing. He's thinking about his meeting with our hero when he was mocked for being scared of a wooden sword, and he gets extremely furious. At that moment, his father enters the room to check on his training because the competition is around the corner, and in order to cross over this poor life, he must win against Vincent. He is actually pressuring his son to win against the main family so they can surpass them. Determined and scared, Revan wants to win his fight so he can prove himself to his father, and, with this, his family will gain their lost position too. On the other hand, Julian provides our boy with a book about the participants in the Assembly of True Swords. This book contains not only personal information but also their techniques and traits. Moving forward, Vincent asks Julian if he summoned him in his body so he can win the Assembly of True Swords. Though this is also a part of the plan, Julian actually wants the Miracle Stone, which can increase a person's strength to a great extent, and it will be given to the champion. Seeing his determination, our protagonist really wants to win. Standing from the chair, our hero claims although he isn't the Spirit King Julian wished to summon, he'll definitely prove himself better than them. After this, he rings the bell to call the servant. Once Wilson enters the room, our hero, with a smirk on his face, orders him to do something. After some time, Wilson knocks on the office room of the Grand Chamberlain, Raelsa. While announcing himself, he enters. Raelsa, a middle-aged woman, is sitting on her chair, staring at him. She inquires about the reason behind him being there. Since she is a high-level martial artist, Wilson is extremely terrified of her. Moving onwards, Wilson claims he is here under the order of the younger master Vincent. He has sent a request that he wants the Patriarch to attend the Assembly of True Swords personally. Since Raelsa is writing something on a page, upon hearing this her hand stops. While Wilson, with his eyes toward the ground, continues reporting that, being a member of the main family, Vincent wants to prove himself in front of everyone. but she rejects it, saying the patriarch doesn't have time to attend and never did. Then Wilson adds, the young master also wants to say she should stop embezzling the money too. After saying this, Wilson gets scared and, while taking his leave, runs away from there. Behind him, Raelsa, lost in her thoughts, is wondering why Vincent sent his servant when coming himself could have been more effective, but then realizes it seems like he has found out the truth about her. The scene proceeds, and now she is standing behind the patriarch, informing him that the young master has officially invited him to the Assembly of True Swords. As the patriarch begins to reprimand her, she adds that Vincent claims in this competition he is going to prove himself. Hearing this, he asks Raelsa about her opinion, whether Vincent is capable enough to do it. Though she is also not confident about our hero, she sits on the floor and bows towards the patriarch, pleading with him to attend. As for herself, she is ready to become the notary public, which means she is betting her life on Vincent, and if somehow Vincent loses, she will get killed. But the patriarch is quite confused about why she is doing it. The chamberlain answers, it is because the young master knows something about her, which is about the embezzlement of money, the patriarch says, putting Raelsa in complete shock. Furthermore, the patriarch already knows that she is doing it for Vincent's future, so he says nothing about it. Actually, Raelsa is the servant of Sarvana, Vincent's mother. That's why she is worried about our hero. On the other hand, the patriarch is comparing his son, Vincent, to his wife Sarvana, because what Vincent claims about winning the competition is truly what Sarvana would also have done. Standing up, the patriarch agrees to personally attend the Assembly of True Swords. The day of the Assembly of True Swords has arrived, so Revan, along with other participants, is entering the arena. Thinking about defeating our hero, Revan looks at the stage and finds the patriarch Khan sitting there. In the whole history, it is the first time the patriarch has come to the arena, so Revan gets confident that he will definitely win and prove his strength. After the match officially begins, it starts with the fight of Revan against another martial artist. Though he struggled to win, since Revan is a 2-star steelman, it was rather impossible to defeat him, so in this match, Revan becomes the winner. His father, including other spectators, begins to praise and cheer for him. Meanwhile, our hero, who is also present, thinks they are quite geniuses compared to the people of 500 years ago, but in terms of martial arts, they're rather weak. Moreover, our protagonist, after analyzing the fight, thinks their fighting style also seems quite ineffective, and their battles are mainly focused on the individual traits rather than the fight. Bowing in front of the patriarch and the crowd to show his respect, Revan passes a smile to our hero too, like he is giving him a challenge. After this, Revan wins all the matches against the other participants, and it's already evening now. Now standing in front of the patriarch, Revan Adenka challenges to fight against the direct descendant Vincent Adenka since it is the rule. Accepting the challenge, our protagonist enters the arena. As both stand in front of each other, the referee, Zeron, comes forward and is about to start the match, but our hero stops him, saying he has a condition. At this moment, Wilson comes forward with a wooden sword. Taking it, our protagonist declares he will fight with it. Furthermore, he will use his left hand and will also let his opponent make the first 3 attacks. Hearing such conditions, the crowd begins to gossip about our hero. Vincent further declares that during these 3 attacks, he will not move away from his place. As for Revan, he thinks our boy is looking down at him, so he begins yelling. Within the crowd, Revan's father yells that he is just doing it to divert their attention, because in the end, he will lose. But the patriarch agrees with our protagonist's conditions. Moving forward, Zeron declares the start of the battle and moves away. The moment the referee moves the flag, Revan dashes towards our boy to attack him, while Vincent remembers the plan he made with Julian. As he told him, the first attack would be minor, but the second one could be dangerous. Looking at the fighting style of Revan, our hero is clearly not satisfied with it, and as Revan comes near for the second attack, our protagonist successfully diverts it using mana strength. For deflecting the opponent's sword like this, the person must be several levels stronger than the opponent. Therefore, Revan is in utter disbelief. As Revan approaches Vincent to make the third attack, our hero throws him off the ground. Taking out his sword, our protagonist is now ready to prove himself to his father and help Julian fulfill his dream too. The whole crowd is watching the battle in shock. Even Patriarch Khan is shocked at the bravery of his son. It seems like Revan is struggling to stand up while his father is yelling at him continuously. Even Julian is confused about it. But our hero, a real martial artist, knows other ways to defeat the enemy even without a weapon, which he learned in his past life. At this moment, Revan stands up, claiming he must have gotten a blessing, but it seems like he has gotten a minor god, so he mocks our protagonist about it. Hearing this, Julian gets angry. Vincent states he can think whatever he wants, but the fact is, he is going to lose against him. In this instance, Revan attacks our hero again. Analyzing the attacks, Julian suggests moving to the left because Revan is quite fast. Our protagonist counterattacks with his sword right at Revan's neck. Since it is wooden, it didn't harm him anyway. Though Vincent isn't able to use his full force due to his weak body, he is sure that Revan will definitely repeat his attack, and yes, he does. As soon as Revan flies towards our hero with his sword, Vincent, using mana, makes him fall back. After calling out the referee to prevent the tragedy that is about to happen, our boy dashes towards his opponent so he can attack him while he is still mid-air, considering it his last chance. While flying in the air, Revan somehow creates a magical path with his sword, the mysterious sword path Vincent is going to use to make the final attack. Matching the dots of that path, our protagonist rushes towards him at maximum speed to show his attack, which is an absolute sword slash, and actually succeeds in making it. This attack has the power to cut down the opponent's skill and everything with it. As Revan falls onto the crowd, his arm has already been cut. Every single person, including the referee, is just staring at them in dismay. Pointing at him, our hero suggests the referee declare his victory before he cuts Revan's leg too. So he declares our protagonist as the champion, while other servants are taking care of Revan's arm, trying to stop the bleeding. His father has entered the arena too. Meanwhile, our hero is lecturing the referee Zeron since he was there to stop anything bad that could happen. But still, Revan's arm got cut. Therefore, Zeron is apologizing to the young master Vincent. Julian is worrying about Vincent's body, which can collapse soon, so he should get some rest. But our hero thinks it is not the right time. After this, pointing at the patriarch, our protagonist states he has proved his worth too, just like he promised. Agreeing with him, Patriarch Khan announces Vincent as the final champion of the Assembly of True Swords, and now it's time for the award ceremony. The scene shifts to the ceremony hall, where all nobles are sitting on their chairs while Patriarch Khan is handing the crystal mana to our boy. At this moment, Revan's father enters the hall, saying he feels something suspicious about this fight. In this instance, a priest also enters the hall, reporting a problem to the patriarch. Upon being asked, he explains that though they are trying their best, Revan's arm is still not getting attached back to his body. This news was so shocking to Revan's father as he realized his son is going to be handicapped forever. Holding him, Revan's father yells for someone to do something, but the priest claims they have never come across such a type of injury, so treating it is impossible. Hearing this, even Julian gets shocked. The priest takes them to Revan and further explains the powers used to cut that arm are far beyond their divine powers, so they must do something as soon as possible. Otherwise, it will get too late. Seeing his son lying like this, Revan's father yells that Vincent definitely used some skills which resulted in this. Even Vincent's siblings are gossiping about it, suspecting him of using the apostle's skills. At this moment, Vincent demands permission from the patriarch so he can handle this matter himself. Upon getting the permission, our hero moves forward with a grin on his face. In a loud voice so everyone can hear him, Vincent states that this whole competition was held under the supervision of the patriarch, and after winning, Patriarch Khan announced him as a winner too, so it means Charles is doubting the patriarch's decision and superiority, nothing else. As the scene proceeds, our protagonist orders Zeron to arrest Revan's father, Charles. Hearing this, Charles gets furious while Zeron, left with no option, barges at Charles Adenka and arrests him for doubting the patriarch's authority in front of everyone. Moving forward, Patriarch Khan suggests Charles be grateful to Vincent because if he hadn't reminded him about it, he could have received an even worse punishment. Since he is also a father, he will let go of this matter, but he doesn't want this to happen again. After that, the patriarch praises our boy, and in return, Vincent expresses gratitude by bowing in front of him. Seeing this, Julian gets happy because getting praised by the patriarch isn't a minor thing. On the other hand, the priest is still trying to join Revan's arm back to his body. Here Julian gives an idea to our hero and suggests he should go with it because it'll definitely favor them. Reaching near the priest, Vincent asks if it's possible to fix the arm using the miracle stone. He further claims he is the reason why Revan is in such a condition, so he wants to correct it. As he looks at Patriarch Khan, he states he will agree with whatever decision he makes. He then moves to Charles Adenka, telling him how his son laughed at him before. Though Revan's father apologizes to our protagonist, Vincent cuts off the ropes with which Charles was being tied and demands something, because only after that will he grant the use of the miracle stone for his son. As Charles asks about the demands, Vincent states he wants someone else's arm in return. In his mind, our hero calls Revan a loser because he knows he is conscious and listening to everything, yet for his arm, he isn't stopping his father. After thinking for a while, Charles agrees to fulfill his demand, which clearly shows how much he loves his son. Though scared, Charles is determined to do anything for his son, and as he is about to cut the arm, Vincent makes Zeron remember what he ordered him earlier about preventing any kind of tragedy. So before the sword reaches Charles's arm, Zeron splits it into two pieces. Kneeling on one leg in front of the patriarch, our protagonist claims he has made his decision, so Patriarch Khan hands him the miracle stone, which he gives to the priest. Putting the stone in his mouth above Revan's arm, the priest prays for a bit, and then breaks it into pieces. As these pieces fall on his arm, Revan's arm begins to heal. Though Julian and Vincent regretted the decision of giving away the divine stone, they had no other option. Meanwhile, inside the hall, Wilson was listening to the whole matter, so now he finds our hero, whom he never liked, quite cool. Remembering the time when Vincent asked him to be loyal to him, Wilson is now ready to work with loyalty under his young master. Inside the hall, Revan and his father are hugging each other whilst crying. At night, Wilson enters Vincent's room with a smile on his face, asking our hero about dinner. Julian is confused about his sudden change. Vincent asks the reason behind it, wondering if being acknowledged by everyone isn't what Wilson wished for. Julian answers that he actually manifested something even greater. In this instance, they hear a knock on the door and get surprised, thinking Wilson arrived quite quickly with food. The door opens and a priest named Dullen walks in. As he introduces himself, Vincent asks him the reason for his arrival. Dullen is actually the priest who healed Revan earlier, so he is here to express his gratitude to Vincent for the act he did earlier. Moving on, he takes out the miracle stone which he got after healing Revan. Our protagonist is confused about why Dullen is giving it to him. Dullen begins to explain why he became a priest, because he felt happy helping people in pain. But today, seeing young Master Revan's condition, he was a bit hesitant to use a miracle stone. Unlike him, Vincent came forward to offer the stone he just won without any second thoughts. This made him realize his mistake, so he really believes Vincent deserves this. Though accepting the miracle stone, our hero claims he actually did nothing at all. After that, Dullen hands over a token to our protagonist, which he can use whenever he needs help from the temple. Furthermore, he tells our hero that he is a second-class priest, although they haven't revealed it to the public yet. While Julian and our hero are still staring at the token, this news is even more shocking to Julian, but our boy doesn't know the context behind it, so he asks Julian. In excitement, Julian explains it's like having unlimited use of the temple. Even the token in his hand signifies to treat the person who owns it just like a second-class priest. The priest bows towards Vincent to express his gratitude and takes his leave. Once he is gone, they're excitedly talking about this new achievement. Julian states it's his first time receiving such praise, so it feels like a dream. Amid this conversation, Julian remembers something, that Vincent's father usually eats alone, but once he invited his second-born daughter Dea to dinner after she made an incredible victory in the Assembly of True Swords, so he thinks our hero might get invited too, but there are only half chances. Standing from the chair, though his body is quite weak, Vincent starts to wear his jacket. He explains that though they're still unsure, staying prepared is rather good. At this moment, Wilson opens the door with a bang, and with a trembling voice, he just utters the patriarch's name, but since our hero knew it, he gets out of the room, completing Wilson's sentence that he is being invited by him. Now Wilson is even more inspired by our protagonist. As the scene proceeds, our protagonist is now walking through the corridor to reach the dining room when he meets his stepmother, Versa Highline, who praises our boy for winning the competition. Vincent bows in front of her to express his gratitude, so she passes a gentle smile. Julian further explains she was an incredible martial artist, so everyone called her Giant. She politely asks our hero to follow since his father is waiting there. Once he enters the room, his father yells his name furiously, so our hero wonders why he seems so different from the morning. Maybe he is testing him. With a smirk on his face, Vincent states there's no need to yell at his own son privately. As the patriarch questions the reason behind it, Vincent answers that the mother told him his father is waiting for him instead of the patriarch. Hearing this, our hero's father praises him for noticing such a small detail, and then begins to explain that there are two reasons behind his summoning here. The first is obviously congratulating him on his victory, and secondly, he wants to know if what Charles said is true or not. Versa, with her magical eyes, scans our hero and reports to his father that she didn't find any possibility of him being an apostle. Julian explains to our boy that the mother's eye can see through the truth. The patriarch questions if he isn't getting supported by a god, and also hasn't linked any image to the heart, then how come he made such an incredible attack on Revan? Versa explains his techniques seem similar to the hero King Kajin, who was a professional in swinging his sword in strange ways. Moreover, he was strong enough to defeat the archdemon Davin. Hearing this, our hero again gets furious, but then his stepmother approaches him, putting her hands on his shoulder, and she politely asks Vincent how he learned this technique which resembles the hero Kajin's technique so much. Seeing Versa acting like this, Vincent realizes she is the one who summoned him here because she wants to know about the origins of martial arts. As he is about to say something, Julian stops him. Our hero says to him, if he isn't forgetting, then he must know she can see through lies, so their lame excuses wouldn't work here. So he thinks of telling the truth, but Julian says he wants to try something first. She is waiting for him to say something while Julian is getting anxious because he is quite afraid of his stepmother. Here, our protagonist encourages him. In order to overcome fear, all it takes is one step, and today he is going to take this step on his behalf. Vincent states he actually received a revelation, but having it received without any blessings appears very odd to her, because only evils receive revelations like this. But our hero didn't know about it, so he got silent again. Moving on, Versa states she is getting suspicious, so if he doesn't tell her everything, he will go through the Sacred Court's trial. Here, Julian suggests our boy follow his words. Vincent claims they can check about it with the temple. Taking out the miracle stone given to him by Dullen, our hero declares that if he is really a devil, he must have recognized him. Versa recognizes the stone because she gave it to that priest, and since her eyes didn't react, it means he isn't lying about it. Vincent further adds, even though he has gotten the revelation, he didn't learn the swordsmanship from there. Rather, he read books about it because anyhow he wanted to prove himself. Julian tells our hero that any truth about his own life and Julian's life will appear true to her. He further adds, somehow he knew that he had to do something to surpass the Samion family and prove his worth to his father. This truth actually belongs to Julian and Davin from 500 years ago too. Now even the temple has proved it, so only the father's decision is left. So the patriarch begins to rub his chin, and seeing it, a smile appears on Versa's face because only she knows the patriarch does this when he is completely satisfied with something. After pondering on it for a while, Vincent's father finally announces the decision, which is that he can continue working on this martial art. But the thing is, he should work on Davin's swordsmanship since it is similar to Kajin's, because once the Samion family finds they're using Hero King Kajin's technique, they'll get furious. But as for Davin, they will say nothing about it. So Versa questions the patriarch if he made the decision after considering all these facts. Calling her my lady, he answers that he has considered every possibility before declaring his decision. Moving onwards, Versa just encourages our boy to practice, because his father has taken the responsibility for whatever will happen next. Standing off his chair, Vincent's father asks if he has any desire which he will fulfill as a reward for winning the assembly of true swords and saving the face of the family. Vincent wants to get stronger, so his father questions how he can help him with it. Julian advises making a demand of going to the library. Acting on his advice, our hero puts his wish in front of his father. The patriarch questions if he has succeeded in linking imagery to the heart, because only 3-star martial artists are allowed to enter the library. Our hero answers he hasn't succeeded in it yet. That's why he wants to make use of this opportunity, so his father agrees with his wish. After this, he also gives the Crimson Lotus sword to our boy as his reward. This is the sword his father used in his youth, basically a history of the Adenka family. Walking out of the room, our protagonist is analyzing the sword, which seems quite strong, while Julian is just flying around in happiness. But our boy suggests he can control it because they're going to achieve even greater things in the future. Moving onwards, Julian claims though he was disappointed first when he got summoned into his body. It seems like it was the best thing that happened to him. Meanwhile, Wilson is waiting for our boy outside, and as Vincent is about to go with him, Versa calls him from behind. She again praises him for all the struggles, and also tells him to enter the Crimson Fortress according to their customs, because he is the winner of the recent competition. Julian explains about it to our hero. It is a training institute of the Adenka family, and whoever completes the training of this academy becomes a high-level martial artist. Requirements to enter it are winning the assembly of true swords and defeating the Crimson Demon, and upon Julian's advice, our hero answers he is still not sure about it. Versa gets a bit disappointed because she thought he would definitely take part in it. Moreover, due to the technique he used earlier, his body must be in pain, she adds. As our hero agrees with it, his mother adds, it means the chances of winning against the demon are very low. Rather, he will die. Julian can't believe the stepmother is advising him, so our hero thinks she must have begun to like him. Julian is confused about it, so our protagonist says his enemies from his past life imprisoned him, even though he was innocent, and if Versa really disliked him, she could have done the same, yet she didn't. But he also can't deny that she doesn't like him much. Versa is about to explain the traits of the demon when our hero, while thanking her, takes his leave. Looking at him full of confidence and pride, Versa asks Sarvana if she is watching her son stepping forward to become a great martial artist. The next day, Wilson is hanging the washed clothes while saying he will always support the young master, with a smile on his face. In this instance, a girl named Sari bangs his head with a suitcase in her hand, saying he shouldn't think anything bad about the young master. Wilson claims his master has become loyal to his master. Can't she see the clothes hanging around her? Trusting him, she asks about our hero. So Wilson starts telling Siri all the details of what happened in the past few days since she wasn't here. Meanwhile, in the library, our protagonist and Julian are trying to find the records of 500 years ago. Even Julian finds it odd because only the time period of Kajin and Davin is missing, like someone did it intentionally. So our hero thinks if someone can steal it, the possibility of changing the story is also very high, but now his priority is dealing with the Crimson Demon, so he can think about it later. Meanwhile, Julian is thinking about the real identity of our boy, because he remembers him calling his ancestor Arslan a child, and he is also familiar with the swordsmanship of King Hero Kajin. Vincent is worrying if he should reveal his identity or not. After thinking for a while, he finally decides to reveal it. But as soon as Vincent reveals his identity, Julian can't hear it, so he demands him to repeat it. When Vincent says it again, a glaring sound begins to tear apart Julian's ears, which is too painful to bear, so Julian suggests he should not say it. At this moment, Vincent finds a book named First Love with a Watermill. The existence of such a book among the mana books is odd, but as he opens it, Vincent thinks someone intentionally named it this way so no one would read it. But as he starts to read, he finds the story is actually quite erotic. Julian thinks they won't find any clue in it, but our hero keeps reading and finally finds that the main character of the novel has no imagery, yet he has a trait, the power of love. The book states that traits aren't created from mana, rather their manifestation is brought by mana, and once someone throws away the theory of imagery, he can achieve anything only with mana. Julian thinks doing this people will die, but our hero says now he has proof that someone actually lived after this. Though Julian thinks learning the traits like this is heinously dangerous, Vincent is ready to take this risk. As they get out of the library, he finds Sari waiting for him, who shows a sign of worry towards our boy upon seeing him. Julian explains she is a maid who was out for a few days due to some emergency. Vincent now remembers her. She is the only one who always showed true care and affection towards Vincent. Siri starts to cry after knowing our hero actually won against Revan. Both don't know how to console a woman. After some time, our boy puts his hand on her shoulder and claims he is working hard so they won't be embarrassed of their own master. At this moment, someone calls our hero from behind. It is Revan Adenka, who then claims to talk to Vincent about something. The scene proceeds, and both of them are now sitting in a room. And as for Siri, she is also present there. Seeing the situation in the room, Sari asks if she should make sandwiches for them. But then Revan stands up from his seat, and while taking out his sword, he furiously says today he is here to repay Vincent for what he did on the day of the Assembly of True Swords. Seeing him take out the sword, Vincent yells at Sari to get out of the room while he also takes out his own sword. But then something unexpected happens. Revan apologizes to our boy for what he did in the past, and also thanks him for giving up his miracle stone to a coward like him, who didn't utter a word when his own father was about to sacrifice his arm. Bending on one knee, Revan states he is the reason behind his father becoming peaceful with him again, so he puts his sword in front of Vincent's feet as a sign of his loyalty towards him from now on. Although Vincent and Sari are believing him, Julian advises not to trust him because he always tricks others. Unlike Julian, our protagonist knows that if a martial artist puts their sword in front of a person, it means he is devoting his life to them, but Julian is still panicking about it. After thinking for a while, Julian also thinks of an idea. But first, Vincent has to accept Revan's loyalty. Taking out his crimson sword, our boy puts it on Revan's shoulder as a sign of accepting his oath and also promises him to stay by his side in need. Still kneeling in front of Vincent, Revan thanks him while Sari is looking at the scene in complete shock. Moving on, Julian claims they can gain the Dwarf King's blessings from Revan now. The scene shifts to the Patriarch, where Versa is reporting to him that Vincent might join the Crimson Fortress this year. So the Patriarch questions her about the Crimson Demon conquest. She explains, though she tried telling him, Vincent didn't listen and just went away. As for Crimson Demons, they only attack with 3rd star mana or higher because apparently they don't have any physical form, and this conquest proves the worth if the person can really enter the academy and actually fight at a 3-star or higher level. Furthermore, Revan has been found residing in Vincent's building for the past few days. Meanwhile, Revan is teaching our protagonist about his traits using the book they found earlier. When our hero first asked this favor, Revan agreed to teach him, but said he'd have to stay beside him. Learning this trait, which is fatally dangerous, means our boy is trusting Revan with his life, something Revan admits he could never do if he were in the same position, but he finds it quite pleasing since he has begun to like our protagonist. Moreover, he would never believe that a method of learning traits without imagery actually exists. Our hero is struggling a lot to learn this trait but is still not giving up, while Julian is worrying about him. Our protagonist is familiar with the struggle and risk because in his past life, he was always on the verge of dying, so he isn't scared anymore. So now he is ready to link it, but Revan and Julian are trying to stop him because they think it's dangerous for his life. Ignoring them, our boy proceeds to do it. All of a sudden, with a sudden burst, everything inside the room breaks as Revan flies over and hits the bed so hard that it splits into pieces. Although the Patriarch thinks only a half year is left until the next Crimson Fortress, Versa thinks Vincent can do it since he has already defeated Revan. On the other side, Revan runs to check on our hero, who is fine, but still thinks he shouldn't move this fast and should take at least 2 months to complete it. But the Patriarch asks Versa to order Vincent to defeat the demon within a month. Meanwhile, our protagonist is exhaustingly lying there, claiming he felt like he was going to die again. The Grand Chamberlain Raelsa is appointed to pass this order to Vincent. Though worried, she is going towards our hero. As she enters Vincent's room, she gets shocked after seeing the horrible situation of the room. Vincent and Revan are also injured, so Sari is treating them. Seeing the condition, Raelsa gets furious and asks the reason behind it, while Revan is getting really scared of her as he realizes she is the Grand Chamberlain. Vincent assures her not to worry about it as he was just meditating. Hearing this, Sari also gets very furious. She says even though she doesn't know about mana, one thing she is sure about is people don't end up like this after meditation, so our protagonist apologizes to her. Raelsa thinks he has changed a lot, but since he claims he is fine, she suggests he complete this meditation as soon as possible because the patriarch wants him to defeat the Crimson Demon within a month. Seeing his father giving him a time limit like this, our hero smiles a bit because it shows he is having expectations from him. Raelsa further states that during the battle, she will accompany him while she is also expecting that he really wins against the demon. Once she is gone, Vincent claims he must hurry up now, so Sari, while holding his hand, pleads with him not to push himself very hard. Therefore our boy promises her. Feeling her, Vincent realizes Sari has quite a lot of mana within her. After this, he demands her to leave the room because he wants to discuss something with Revan. Once she is gone, Revan states he won't help him to finish it off in a month because it is impossible and dangerous. In this instance, our boy shows him the completed flow of mana. Further, he asks, now he has completed it, it means manifestation would be easy now. It clearly shows they won't have to wait for a month to fight the demon. After 2 weeks, Vincent is standing in the woods along with Revan, because today is the day of manifestation. As he is about to do it, Revan suggests our hero stay back unless he might hurt himself like last time, but our boy claims he wants to stay as close as he can in order to see his victory, which shows he has become completely loyal to our protagonist. Starting it, our hero first makes the structure and then starts to link it when Julian feels something behind him. As he looks back, he sees a gigantic god who seems like the Dwarf King. Seeing him, Julian greets the god while he bestows the blessings to our protagonist. Once it is completed, Julian explains the first step of this trait is strengthening, after which comes the Steelman step. Revan is getting inspired by our boy because he succeeded in getting this trait in less than a month. Now our hero is ready to fight against the Crimson Demon, so he thanks Revan for it. Furthermore, Vincent asks him for another favor. After preparing and practicing for 2 days, now they're ready to go fight the demon. But Raelsa is really worried about our boy. Further, she claims every single champion she has gone with till now has won against the demon, so she doesn't want him to just go there without any plan. Actually, Raelsa is Vincent's mother's servant, so she doesn't want Sarvana's son to be the first one who will lose against the demon. But our protagonist, with a smirk on his face, assures her not to worry about it. Now Vincent, along with the Grand Chamberlain, is departing toward their destination in a carriage. Julian is worrying about this battle, and, at the same time, he is explaining some things to our hero about which Vincent thinks they don't make any sense. Amid their conversation, Raelsa questions our protagonist whether he did any prior research on the Crimson Demon. She further states the demon is on a higher level, and, as far as she knows, he hasn't even reached the 3-star level. Even Julian feels odd about the fact that Vincent isn't worrying about the demon anyhow. Assuring him, our boy wonders whether Arslan made this plan for his sake, because only he knows that our protagonist has defeated a Crimson Demon in his past life. Moving on, Vincent asks Raelsa why she is worrying about him so much. Though she claims it is because she is his protector, our hero says it is because of the money she has been embezzling, which has gotten revealed to him. But Vincent also suspects she did it intentionally. She gave him her weakness for a purpose so he would come to her. Upon hearing these words, Raelsa becomes silent and just stares at our boy blankly with no utterance of any word. Seeing her like this, Vincent says he won't ask her about it anymore, but the condition is, she also won't talk about his training. At this moment, the horse stops, a sign of reaching their destination. After getting out of the carriage, they're standing in front of the lair of the Crimson Demon, which is apparently known as the Old Temple. The Grand Chamberlain states this is Arslan's memorial. Arslan and then the demon. It feels like an intentionally made plan for our boy. As the scene proceeds, Raelsa takes out her sword and makes a mana barrier around the temple, because this barrier only allows one monster to pass through it. Soon, the Crimson Demon also appears in the scene, so Vincent, taking out his sword, advises Raelsa to stay near so she can see carefully how strong he is as the direct descendant of the Adenka family. Although Julian suggests he dodge the attack and move a bit away from the demon so he can use his sword skill, our protagonist knows distance would become a disadvantage to the demon, so instead, he will get even closer. Saying this, our boy dashes toward the demon and attacks it. Even the Grand Chamberlain thinks it was a great idea to get near his enemy, but since it is the first experience of fighting a demon, he should have stayed careful. At the same time, he seems like a very professional and experienced martial artist to her. Due to the traits of the Dwarf King, Vincent isn't feeling tired, so now his only priority is finding the path of his skilled swordsmanship. After fighting his enemy closely for a while, Vincent finally goes back to maintain a distance and use his swordsmanship. Since our hero has worn out the demon due to his continuous attacks, he knows he will definitely find the path in this attack. Fortunately, the demon has a lot of openings, so within seconds, Vincent finds the path, and, after increasing the strength of his body, he attacks his opponent. With this attack, the Crimson Demon vanishes, and a red ball falls on the floor, so our protagonist thinks he has won against the demon. The reality is something else. The reason why the demon can't be defeated in one attack is because it has 2 lives. Soon the demon appears again behind Vincent as he is standing with his face towards Raelsa. The demon is about to attack our boy when Raelsa yells for him to watch out, so Vincent bends to the ground and dodges the attack. It seems like the Crimson Demon has also evolved from 500 years ago, because after the revival, its appearance and speed have changed too. As for the Grand Chamberlain, she knows they become berserk in their second life, which means they get extremely strong and fast. Dodging the attacks, our protagonist reaches a dead end and now he can't go anywhere. Though his opponent still attacks, somehow he dodges it, which results in the breakage of the temple wall. Seeing the situation, Julian suggests changing the plan, but our hero is still sticking to it because he knows what is going on in the demon's mind. It is trying to put him in a corner so it can make the final attack. So now he will just let the demon do whatever it wants, and once its guard gets down, Vincent will make his attack. Seeing the situation, though Raelsa wants to help, she knows that once she enters the battlefield, Vincent will ultimately lose, which she doesn't want to happen because of her love toward him as the son of her master, Lady Sarvana. She remembers the time before meeting Vincent's mother. Belonging to a poor family, she used to live by stealing. Then one day she came across a monster, and to defeat it, Lady Sarvana helped her and also offered for her to join her. Raelsa remembers her polite and calm smile. Although she doesn't remember why she joined them, she somehow got influenced by her and joined their adventure to become a Denka's legend along with Khan and Versa. After this, they achieved a lot of things and killed plenty of monsters together. Her influence was so strong that Raelsa is still unable to forget her beauty and boldness. Thinking about her, a smile appears on Raelsa's face too, because in her pathetic life, Sarvana held her hand and became a ray of light. The day Vincent was born and Lady Sarvana was on her deathbed, while holding Vincent, she promised herself to protect him until he became a great martial artist. But growing up, everyone looked down at him and mocked him since he was weak. Due to guilt, many times Raelsa thought of leaving Adenka. But then the day she found out about his victory and getting the acknowledgement, she became full of hope again. So now he can't just stop here. She believes that Vincent will definitely win. In this instance, Vincent calls out Revan's name, and someone runs past Raelsa and appears in front of our boy as a shield. Raelsa gets shocked because the person is Revan Adenka. Now Revan is trying to stop the attack of the demon, which all seems like their pre-made plan, so Raelsa seems in disbelief. As Revan is stopping the opponent, Vincent sits on the ground and begins to meditate. On the other hand, Raelsa is worrying about him because a single mistake will result in his death. Although Revan is the one stopping the demon, its focus is still on our protagonist. Though he is a steel man, he isn't capable of passing the strength to his sword, and all this time, the Crimson Demon was trying to weaken the sword, which he realized very late when it began to crack. Unfortunately, soon the sword breaks into several pieces. Revan, although he can't stop the demon with bare hands, is still struggling to do it. When he is about to lose it, Vincent finally stands up and makes his swordsmanship attack. Finally, they succeed in defeating their enemy completely, as the red ball also shatters into pieces. Although they're getting excited over their win, Raelsa, while congratulating him, states there are high chances the Patriarch will not approve it. Bowing towards her, Vincent states she is quite quick in her thinking. But the thing is, since only one demon can enter this barrier at a time, the killing of this monster actually belongs to Revan to prove his resolution, and as he takes out the Miracle Stone, Vincent states the next battle actually belongs to him. After this, he bites the Miracle Stone to increase the strength to a great level, but even with this strength, our protagonist can only use the skill swordsmanship. The meditation he did before was for smooth working of the Miracle Stone. Now as the demon is dashing towards Vincent, he is also ready to attack. After this, our boy makes both attacks all together on the demon with little interval and kills it with not much effort. Seeing this, Raelsa sighs with a sense of relief. Now our hero looks tired and exhausted, so Julian suggests he should lay down, but our protagonist claims he will stand firm till the end because he is the real winner. But then something unexpected happens. A summoning circle appears there, which never happened before, so Raelsa is extremely shocked. Then, only after a few seconds, a relic demon appears there. Looking at the relic guardian, Raelsa is sure that it was also created a long time ago along with the temple. Taking out her sword, she introduces herself as the protector of Adenka and orders the guardian to reveal its mission. But the guardian, due to its old age, ignores everything and directly attacks her. So she advises Revan to hide somewhere along with our boy, who is half unconscious. As they're walking away, Raelsa makes her first attack, but on hearing a loud sound, Revan and Julian turn their heads and see the relic guardian's face in the place where Raelsa was standing, which means she's inside it. Worrying about her, Revan yells her name, and at this moment, breaking that stone guardian's mouth into pieces, the Grand Chamberlain jumps out of it. Revan is looking at her with widened eyes because of what she just did, but then Vincent speaks up, claiming there's something else on the other side, and then attacks a pillar. Since Revan and Julian are unable to find why he is attacking in the air, Raelsa gets her sight of a fly at the exact spot where Vincent attacked earlier. As she looks closely, it has a red stone submerged into its body, which means it is the real form of the guardian which somehow escaped earlier. the Guardian is approaching the young masters, so within no seconds, she runs, and using her skills, slices the Guardian fly into pieces. Since it was so close to Revan, he fell on the ground along with our protagonist. After checking up on them, the Grand Chamberlain is trying to figure out how Vincian realized the real form of it when even she couldn't. In this instance, our boy points at a box lying between the rubble of the Guardian. It seems like the Relic Guardian was trying to protect it. Upon opening it, they find a dragon's skeleton bone, which the Grand Chamberlain thinks the first Patriarch Arslan left there. Julian explains the importance of it to our boy, that it is an extremely rare magic ingredient, so Vincian becomes sure that this is the reason why Arslan made this passage. Kneeling in front of Vincian, Raelsa offers it to our boy because he is the first one to find it, which means it belongs to him. But our hero thinks the tradition of giving it to the family by the church is necessary. If someone finds out about it, she will get in huge trouble. But she still insists on taking it. Therefore, Vincian takes out his sword and slices it into 2 pieces. Moving on, he hands over 1 piece to her because she also helped him in getting it. Accepting the half bone, the Grand Chamberlain thanks our protagonist. The scene changes to Khan, who is sitting in the graveyard of swords while Raelsa, standing behind him, is reporting Vincian's arrival. So Khan orders her to report to the church, but Raelsa claims something even bigger happened there, which she thinks he should really know. She explains how Revan Adenka appeared there to help the young master without caring for his life, and also the success of our boy in subjugation. Since Khan also thinks he took help from Revan, which Raelsa thought earlier too, the Grand Chamberlain clarifies it by saying Vincian killed a second Crimson Demon alone, which leaves the Patriarch astonished. Furthermore, Vincian also found a dragon bone left by Arslan, and then showed the half bone given to her by the young master. Looking at it, he questions whether Vincian did it himself. As Raelsa answers yes, he orders her to break the bone. With shock in her eyes, she stares at Khan in disbelief and then, while apologizing, she uses a magic trick to break it. But the bone comes out fine without any scratch. Khan explains one must be a top-class blacksmith in order to break a dragon bone. Looking at the grave of his father, the Patriarch talks with it, claiming his time is near because it looks like his son Vincian has some special powers, so he prays to his father to take care of his son. In Vincian's room, Wilson is crying and yelling his name while our boy is sitting on his chair, looking tired and exhausted, sipping his tea. Siri, who is also present, suggests he stop yelling and let the young master have some rest. The real reason behind Wilson's yelling is that he will go to the Crimson Fortress along with our protagonist, but he is scared of the monsters and even the martial artists present there. Hearing this, Siri teases him for getting scared of monsters while he calls himself a gangster. As they're talking, our hero brings up the mana flowing within Siri's body to Julian, and in response, Julian claims he never once felt something like this. Thinking about it, Vincian realizes he has seen this flow before in his previous life. Therefore, he asks Siri about her last name, to which she answers she is from the Heisley ruined family. Hearing this, our boy becomes sure of her having magic within her body. Since Julian is still confused, our protagonist explains the Heisley family is the first one to study mana and the body, and this family discovered the heavenly exoskeleton too. This family has a skill called Magic Body, which allows them to infuse the body with mana, apparently similar to a heavenly exoskeleton. It means the magic skill body can help the heavenly exoskeleton from drying out. Moving on, our boy questions whether there is any elder in her family. As sadness takes over Siri's face, she answers her grandmother is the only Heisley she knows, who passed away a few days ago. Hearing it, Vincian apologizes to her. Now they're wondering about the reason behind the fall of this family, as our boy thinks the Samion family is behind it too, because they must have wanted to silence those who discovered the heavenly exoskeleton. Amid their conversation, Siri remembers that Lady Sarvanna was also a Heisley, but Julian, who is the real son of Lady Sarvanna, doesn't know it, so our hero also claims he didn't know it. Siri answers, the Patriarch always gets very sad when he hears her name, so it is forbidden to talk about her. Furthermore, Lady Sarvanna was a very kind lady who hired people even from ruined families, and she is the reason they're here today. Most importantly, she also brought the Grand Chamberlain with her when she was living her worst life somewhere, so they find out the reason why Raelsa takes care of him so much. In this instance, someone knocks on the door. It is Raelsa, and upon entering the room, she reports about the departure of Revan, that he is going somewhere. After some time, Vincian is standing in front of Revan, who is fully prepared to depart. He says since he has killed the Crimson Demon, he can't stay here now, but then our protagonist demands another help, which Revan accepts without any hesitation. Our boy then orders him to study the history of the Heisley family from 500 years ago. As both pass a smile, they talk about their first love with a watermill novel and laugh at it. After this, shaking hands, they promise to meet again. Once he is gone, Vincian talks with Raelsa about the reason for her kindness and care towards him, whether it is a method of repaying his mother. Without any hesitation, she agrees with it. So facing her, Vincian claims he wants her help, but not as Sarvanna's son, but as Vincian Adenka. The favor is that he wants to stay in her training until he goes to the Crimson Fortress. Hearing it, Raelsa closes her eyes and wonders if she is going to dedicate her loyalty to Sarvana's son now. After thinking for a while, she agrees to teach him without showing any care or softness. Vincent also claims to look forward to it. The scene proceeds, and now both are standing in the training grounds facing each other. First, Vincent explains learning a trait without imagery, but using a circuit. Taking out her sword, she states she isn't going to tell him everything just like this. Pointing the sword at our boy, Raelsa challenges him to wound her once using his skill, and by then, she will teach him her trait. Although Vincent claims it can turn into a huge disaster just like what happened to Revan, the Grand Chamberlain claims she isn't that weak. Moreover, she is familiar with the sword path, so she won't give him a chance. Meanwhile, Vincent is getting really scared of her, looking at the way she kept her sword so close to his eyes earlier. Further, she states in case anything happens, they can take help from the priest Dulin, since he is familiar with him. Even after trying for a week, Vincent hasn't been able to make even a slight cut on her. Even today, he is struggling to fight against her. But like always, Raelsa wins again. At the end of the fight, Vincent falls on the ground, so the Grand Chamberlain announces it as the last fight for today. Meanwhile, she is looking at the sword, which is in the worst condition, but she has gotten it only a few days ago, so she goes to the blacksmith. After some time, Raelsa is standing behind a man, Hansen, who is working in front of the fire. Calling him out, she claims it seems like he is falling behind in his work. Otherwise, he wouldn't give such trash to Adenka's family. Turning towards her, Hansen inquires about the reason behind her being here in the middle of the night. In front of him, she empties the bag full of broken swords which she has been using for the past week. Analyzing them, he questions whether she fought against a monster, a high-level martial artist, or a mage with 7 runes, and in answer, Raelsa states she doesn't want to die after fighting with them. She further explains she hasn't fought with anyone, rather she is teaching Vincent, the young master. Hearing this, Hansen gets shocked and also asks why he has the Crimson Lotus sword. After some time, the Grand Chamberlain, along with the blacksmith, is standing in front of Vincent's building while our hero is also coming out. Upon reaching them, he questions the reason behind this late call. She answers, Hansen wanted to see the Crimson Lotus sword. With pride on his face, Hansen claims he can see it since he is the one who made it. This news is extremely shocking to our boy and Julian. Hansen adds he has the authority to summon even Khan at any time. Julian explains he is the famous blacksmith, and also an old friend of his father and a former master of this family. Years ago, he stopped making the great swords and started to focus on good quality inventions. But then everyone looked down at him and mocked him for being obsessed with money, and due to it, he lost his place in Adenka. Moving on, our boy appreciates him, which Julian can't understand. He explains that due to him, a lot of people were able to save themselves, and he is the person who gave importance to others instead of himself. After this, Vincent bows towards him while calling him Master Hansen. He claims it is his pleasure to meet him. Seeing himself being called Master, Hansen begins to laugh and apologizes for coming at this time. But our protagonist claims he wasn't trying to look down at him. Rather, he really respects him for making such a choice, and again, calls him Master. He remembers the time when years ago Khan said the same thing. He also claimed that people will look down at him, but he will always believe in him. Therefore, Hansen's opinions about our boy change completely. After this, Vincent shows the sword to him. Analyzing the blade, Hansen can't believe it because it's not even slightly damaged after fighting with the Crimson Demon and also practicing with Raelsa. Looking at it, Hansen wonders if our hero fights with his own strength instead of using the sword. Therefore, he says he wants to see the swordsmanship of our protagonist, and in answer, Vincent remains silent. Seeing Vincent hesitating like this, Hansen begins to yell at him. Although Julian advises him to make some excuses and get away with it, Vincent states he can't miss this chance. At this moment, Sari comes running behind them and yells at Hansen for making a scene this late. Seeing her, the blacksmith begins to calm her down. Since our boy doesn't know how they know each other, Raelsa explains Hansen donated to poor kids, and Sari is also one of them. Apparently, their relationship is more like father and daughter. Meanwhile, both are arguing, and then Sari gets angry with him. To make her calm down, Hansen agrees to come tomorrow. After this, taking his leave, he runs away from there. The next day, Vincent is showing his skills to him. Seeing the skill, Hansen thinks he seems like a legend passed down by the hero king and the great demon. So he is now completely satisfied with our boy. Once Vincent finishes, he questions the blacksmith if he wants to see something else. Since Hansen is so satisfied with him, he claims to be giving Vincent a sword. Further, he states, although the sword is almost finished, it is missing one rare thing. When Vincent asks him to name it so he can buy it for him, Hansen answers, it is Mastodon Horn, Dragon's Bone. Very rare to find. But Vincent has it already, which he found during his fight with the Relic Guardian, so he gives it to the blacksmith. In shock, Hansen begins to yell, so Vincent orders him to stay silent because no one knows about it except his father and Raelsa. Since he has got the main ingredient, now he can complete the sword. but our hero demands to add the horn on the Crimson Lotus instead of making a new one. Even though Hansen suggests making a new one, Vincent insists on keeping it because this sword is the start of his father's career. Agreeing with him, he takes the sword and asks our boy to come after 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, Vincent comes back to take the sword but finds the workshop on fire. Seeing the whole workshop on fire, Sari begins to worry about Hansen while Vincent is trying to understand what has happened. Though looking at Sari's expression, he becomes sure that something really terrible has happened to the blacksmith. Moving onwards, he thinks about entering the workshop and getting Hansen out, but Julian isn't letting him do something so dangerous. But our hero claims he can just cut the door with his sword and enter the shop to save Hansen. Taking out his sword, our boy is ready, although Julian is still denying it, but at the end he agrees with the idea. Breaking through the door, they enter the shop and begin to look for the blacksmith, who is lying in a corner, unconscious. While Vincent is looking at Hansen, Julian gets his sight over the Crimson Lotus, out of which mana is coming and causing the fire. It seems like the horn was too much to be handled by Hansen alone. For the moment, their priority is getting out of here, so taking the blacksmith with him, both move back to the entrance but find it blocked. In such a critical situation, both are trying to think of some other way, but it seems like their minds aren't working. After thinking for a while, Julian asks our boy whether he has any defensive technique because, as far as he knows, the dragon horn will not be able to produce fire for a long time. Until then, they must hold out somehow. After a moment, Vincent remembers the blade defensive technique, so now both are ready to test it since they don't have any better choice. Our boy closes himself off and uses the gentle steel breaker skill to stay out of the fire. Using the blade gently, he is continuously striking the flames coming toward him. Out of curiosity and shock, Julian wonders about the real identity of our protagonist since he knows the true Samyeon swordsmanship. After struggling for a while, Vincent finally succeeds in putting out the fire. Now he is sitting on the floor to take some rest when Hansen wakes up too. After waking up, Hansen's first question is how our boy used the Samyeon swordsmanship so skillfully, but Vincent claims he was unconscious, so he must be seeing things. Therefore, Hansen, without any further questions, agrees with him too. After this, he tells our hero about the completion of the sword. Furthermore, he wasn't familiar with the dragon horn, thus the mana began to flow out along with the flames. Meanwhile, our boy, approaching the Crimson Lotus, picks it up. At this moment, the sword begins to shine as if it is resonating with our protagonist. Hansen asks our boy about his views on it, and Vincent expresses his true appreciation to the blacksmith. As for Julian, he finds something suspicious about the dragon skeleton that was really left by Arslan. He must have left a warning with it too, so they can use it properly without facing such problems. Looking at the sword, Vincent can see a circle mark on it, so he asks Hansen to make another sword for him, since he has made one just now. But our boy believes he can make the second one even better. Although Hansen has to clean all this mess, he still agrees to make the sword but demands a little more time. Moreover, he doesn't have the dragon skeleton anymore, while our boy and Julian are just looking at him with a smile. After some time, Raelsa appears with the other half of the dragon horn. Seeing another horn, Hansen gets even more shocked, and also appreciates her for being so loyal to the Adenka family. Accepting it, the blacksmith is enthusiastic to make another sword. While coming back, Raelsa is thinking about the sudden change in our boy when someone calls her from the front. It is Vincent, who thanks her for giving back the skeleton bone which he was supposed to share with her. In answer, Raelsa claims she doesn't want this horn actually because she received the payment 14 years ago. Bowing in front of him, she claims his birth, and him proving his worth is an even bigger reward for her. Moving on, Vincent takes out his sword and challenges her again. He is confident he can win over her now, which means she will teach him the traits of herself. As for Raelsa, she is also ready not to let him prove this. The fight begins as Raelsa charges ahead and blue energy scatters everywhere. Vincent struggles but keeps his focus as she jumps and tries to attack. She believes that our boy is still nowhere close to winning. However, Vincent manages to block the attack with his sword. As a result, an explosion takes place and he struggles to hold back. Raelsa sees that he blocked it even though she used 4-star mana. Both of their swords are unharmed, and yet neither broke, even though normally using this mana would do that. Just then, Vincent pushes her away, prompting her to realize that the flow and force he is using now is completely different from before. She wonders what new power the Crimson Lotus possesses. Meanwhile, our hero thanks the Dwarf King's trait silently, since now the sword won't break because of the Crimson Lotus. The shock will be absorbed. The new power of the Crimson Lotus is that the sword absorbs the traits of its user. Raelsa lands on the floor and admits that the Crimson Lotus has been strengthened. Vincent replies that Hansen worked really hard on it. She then declares that she will be rougher this time, as she rushes forward to attack again. Our boy's eyes sharpen as she disappears from sight. She runs around him at such speed that her presence becomes barely visible. Our protagonist focuses, trying to sense the mana she uses to mobilize. He finally slashes, leading Raelsa to think he has failed, as she attempts to strike from behind. A smile forms on his face as the realization hits her that he managed to detect her movements within a month. Suddenly, Vincent uses both strikes, landing a powerful blow that triggers an eruption. Raelsa wasn't expecting it, and she ends up losing her sword. Our boy throws it back to her feet, asking her to pick it up. He declares that he doesn't want to win through a cheap victory against someone who has lost their weapon. Raelsa finds it arrogant, reminding him that not all martial artists and monsters will go easy on him the way she has. She warns that opponents stronger than him will completely disgrace his condition, showing no sympathy. Blue energy surrounds her as a symbol forms in the air. Our boy nods in understanding, keenly noticing her incredible aura. She rushes forward again to attack, but suddenly her feet slip and she falls, only to be caught by him just in time. He lightly taps her head, seeing that he has managed to wound her, and reminds her that there are only 4 months left before he enrolls at the Crimson Fortress. Raelsa remains confused as our hero explains that even with absolute sword slash, striking her directly was impossible. However, he could slash the mana surrounding her. Enhanced with the Dwarf King's power, it became possible. Realization hits Raelsa that he slashed through the mana to block her trait. She admits that he always surpasses her expectations and finally agrees to teach him about his blessing, the flow of mana from the Galaxy Wanderer. Soon after, Vincent sits meditating while Raelsa stands beside him. She explains that when you allow mana to flow through that path, it begins to manifest. Slowly, the symbol floats upon his hands and begins to move. Julian becomes worried about the explosion, as he notices a blue figure of a young lady appearing. Meanwhile, in the Crimson Fortress, a guy questions a woman about her work, doubting whether she is spacing out again. When she tries to make excuses, Crimson Fortress Dean Vargon Pagoda strictly orders her to prepare for the next entrance. Headmaster Herka Quebel agrees. As she checks the documents, she finds our hero's name and calls him useless, stating that someone bothersome is coming again. Pagoda thinks that if the rumors are true and he really is useless, going to soil the Crimson Fortress's name, then they should eliminate him before he even enrolls. A figure of a lady walks behind our boy, startling Julian as she breathes out and spreads a breeze all around. A tornado forms, and Julian feels the sudden cold. The figure then disappears. As the smoke starts to clear, Raelsa states that our hero will not leave a trace even upon frosty snow, and that this technique is called Forest Walk. After that, Vincent sits at the table while Julian comments that the Crimson Forest is more of a fortress than a training academy. They examine the map of Samion, as Julian points out a location in the mountains along the border. In the past, when followers of the Archdemon invaded Samion, Arslan and the other heroes of that era stepped forward. When the war ended, they took on the role of founding and leading the training academy. Hearing that, our boy becomes certain that they can find the will of Arslan there, and perhaps even another dragon skeleton. Julian corrects him, saying it is not a dragon skeleton, there is another legend of a treasure. When asked what it is, Julian reveals the legend of the heavenly fruit. It is said to be more powerful than any medicine in the world, and rumors claim that it can even revive the dead. There is a heavenly fruit tree that bears the fruits, and there is even absurd talk about the Crimson Forest existing as a vessel meant to protect it. Julian admits that he would never have believed such legends in the past, but considering their situation now, he wonders if their next objective is truly the heavenly fruit. He continues, saying they could heal the rotting heavenly skeleton and escape death. Once they enroll, they will only have 9 years left. Meanwhile, Vincent believes that since they have overexerted themselves, it could be even less than that. Just then, they both decide to reveal and discover the secret of the heavenly fruit and find it. However, after reading further, our hero points out that according to the book, students must fend for themselves financially at the Crimson Forest without any support from their families. Julian explains that the rule exists to prevent unfairness between students, since many families and their descendants will gather there. When asked where they will get the money, Julian tells him not to worry. He is invested in a place called the Sixth Magic Tower. If the Adenka and Samion families are renowned for swordsmanship, then the Sixth Magic Tower is famous for elite mage courses. You can sponsor a mage's research and earn back your contribution. The mage he invested in is named Varnelli, who recently became the tower's co-owner. The only problem is that their investment has now turned into trash because the co-owner has died. Julian sensed this through a document informing that she passed away. Shocked, Julian panics, crying over his lost money. Vincent asks him to show respect towards the dead, but Julian only worries about starving in the fortress with no funds. They then read Varnelli's will, which states that she leaves all her possessions and research to her only younger sibling, Vargon Pagoda. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Pagoda stands at the tower, remembering his sister, admitting that he could never reach her level of genius. Back in the room, they decide they must investigate Pagoda first, gathering as much information as possible since only 4 months remain. 4 months later, on the mountains of the Crimson Forest, Raelsa walks with them, showing the path they must take due to security restrictions. She tells them that if they continue along the right side, the headmaster of the Crimson Forest will come out to guide them. Our boy expresses his gratitude and thanks her for everything. He says his mother would have thought the same way, making Raelsa smile as she asks him to take care of himself. Soon after, inside the fortress, Pagoda informs the headmaster that Vincent will be arriving soon. Headmaster Herka is annoyed, clearly not willing to guide anyone. Just then, a crystal on the table activates and begins speaking, reminding the headmaster of her responsibilities. It also reports that recently, monsters have been invading the local resistance in the surrounding area. Hearing this, Herka becomes excited, suddenly eager to go defend the resistance at the fortress. The crystal advises her to simply send some of the Renaissance members, since the monster is weak. She already knows, but walks to the window and tells Pagoda that she will personally go to meet the direct descendant of Adenka. With a grin, she jumps out of the window, leaving Pagoda shouting after her. When someone asks about young Master Vincent, Pagoda agrees to guide them in the headmaster's place. He heads to the balcony, where 2 soldiers are waiting. When he asks where the young master is, they hand him a telescope. Looking through it, he sees Raelsa and Vincent standing together. The sight makes him wonder if our boy is truly so useless that someone that powerful needs to guard him. When a guard asks about the upcoming examination and its difficulty, Pagoda explains that they will proceed exactly as last year, and that he will personally test Vincent. Silently, he adds to himself that he intended to weed him out before he could even enroll anyway. Then, raising his voice, he announces the first exam. Subjugation of the illusory monster will now begin. Soon after, our boy arrives near the Crimson Fortress with Siri and Wilson. They are still in the fortress when they hear a roar. Vincent wonders if the examination has already started. He draws his sword, eager to test the results of his 4 months of training with Raelsa. A moment later, the blue-eyed white tiger appears, the strongest predator in the snowy mountain region. Both servants tremble behind him, while Vincent steps out of sight and tells them to run toward the Crimson Forest as fast as they can without looking back. Our hero then sprints forward, believing that if it really is a blue-eyed white tiger, it will chase the fastest moving target. The tiger follows him, but as he runs, he notices something strange. The tiger looks like the one he remembers, yet at the same time it does not. It does not feel alive. Still, it changes nothing for him. He is determined to defeat it. But then another tiger appears. To save himself, he leaps and lands on a nearby tree. Julian, staring wide-eyed, points out that countless more tigers are approaching, 18 in total. He believes it is impossible to defeat all of them with only 2 strikes of absolute sword slash. Meanwhile, our boy remains confused, as blue-eyed white tigers are the strongest predators and therefore never travel in packs. Even though they are carnivorous, there is not a single trace of blood on them. Julian begins to suspect that they might be illusions formed with magic. Meanwhile, from the Crimson Forest Fortress, Pagoda wonders whether our protagonist has already realized that they are illusions. Even so, he thinks it will not change anything, because he is using a high-rank illusionary monster summoning spell. These illusions are smarter than real tigers, since they are being controlled by a human. Calling Vincent good for nothing, he questions what he will do now. Back with the team, our hero reasons that if magic of this rank is being used, the caster will run out of mana soon. But Julian disagrees, mentioning the assembly element. It is a method that allows multiple spells of the same type to be used simultaneously. Instead of casting numerous spells individually, the user designates one spell as the assembly element and branches out copies from it, making the spell far more efficient and reducing mana consumption. This leads our boy to conclude that if he can destroy the designated source, everything else will disappear. Julian agrees, but wonders how he will find the correct one. However, Vincent is confident he can locate it. If a human is controlling the magic so intensely, a real monster would always be positioned in front. It is obvious that the controller would try to protect the assembly element. He identifies the one tiger standing motionless at the top of the cliff as the assembly element. In the next moment, our boy uses Frostwalk, shocking Pagoda, who recognizes Raelsa's trait. He reaches the assembly element instantly. Pagoda, excited and anxious, refuses to give him any opening. The tiger attacks, but Vincent steadies himself, fully aware that his Crimson Lotus, strengthened by the dragon skeleton, absorbs the properties of his mana. He then uses Absolute Sword Slash combined with the Galaxy Wanderer's Blessing, the trait Absolute Sword Sense Variation. In a blink, he strikes through the assembly element and cuts it apart. The illusion breaks, and all the other tigers vanish. From the fortress, Pagoda realizes that our hero did more than destroy the illusion. He disconnected the actual mana circuit sustaining the spell. Shocked, he understands that our boy has a deep understanding of magic. Feeling helpless, a soldier asks how they will proceed with the examination results. Pagoda answers that they have no choice since the magic has been completely obliterated. He orders the gates to be opened so they may greet the young master. As they arrive, Vincent asks whether it is normal to find a mage of such caliber at a fortress that is usually a central gathering place for martial artists. Wilson and Sari wait for them. While Julian is satisfied that their research was correct, Pagoda is the mage who handles all essential business within the fortress. When they enter, Pagoda and the others greet him, our boy recognizing him immediately as they welcome him with respect. Julian then explains that within the fortress, a talented cadet may receive sponsorship according to the sponsorship system. Their goal now is to earn as many points as possible and recover all the money Julian invested in the magic tower. The second card is presented as Pagoda explains that there are quite a few people in the Crimson Forest: instructors, teachers, disciples, military personnel, and children from various families like theirs. If they include their servants, the numbers are even larger. He adds that Vincent will be sharing a dormitory with others, and it may not be comfortable for him. Our boy replies that he will not be uncomfortable. Pagoda reminds him that once they enter here, they become cadets in the fortress and lose any status they held before. Our hero answers that he is aware. Meanwhile, Sari is excited, saying that Vincent will be wearing the same uniform as everyone else. Pagoda, sitting calmly, says that his uniform will be given tomorrow due to a delay. When asked what rank our boy will start at, Pagoda explains that all cadets begin at rank 9 and take their advancement examinations semi-annually. The ranks progress from 9 to 1. If someone manages to pass the advancement examination beyond rank 1, they are considered a breakthrough martial artist and graduate from the fortress with the acknowledgement of being a true martial artist. Hearing that, our protagonist calculates that it will take 4.5 years at the shortest to graduate. He must find the heavenly fruit before then to prevent death. Pagoda then asks about the blue-eyed white tiger, questioning whether he aimed for it on purpose. Our boy agrees, prompting Pagoda to ask how he knows about magic when he comes from a family of martial artists. The truth is, since Julian was terrible at martial arts, he tried to master everything else. Our boy simply replies that since knowledge is power, there is no point in separating such things. Seeing the confidence, talent, and insight to support it, Pagoda cannot understand how he ever received the nickname Good for Nothing. After a pause, our hero asks about the heavenly fruit. Pagoda sighs, thinking that a child will always be a child for believing in such legends. He explains that no one knows about it, since it is said that the heavenly fruit chooses its own owner. He adds that perhaps Vincent may encounter it if he devotes himself to it. Julian and our boy realize that Pagoda considers it nothing more than a myth, making further information difficult to gain. Soon after, they arrive at the dormitory for rank 9 cadets. As they enter, Pagoda explains that the servants will stay on the first floor, while our boy will stay on the third floor in Residence Hall 5. He hands over the sun badge indicating his rank 9 status, and Vincent puts it on. Pagoda then teaches the greeting of the Crimson Forest: humble respect to absolute glory. Soon after, Vincent finally enters Residence Hall 5, where 4 students are already waiting, looking tense. It makes him wonder if he has done something wrong. At that moment, Malone Adenka, rank 9 candidate and representative direct descendant of Adenka, 6th son, appears, calling out to him. Julian explains that he is the older brother, the 6th son Malone, the one who bullied him the most and even forced him to eat garbage. Hearing that, our boy feels nauseous as he realizes the memory is not imagination. This man standing before him bullied him every day of a week, and his actions seem to continue here as well. Julian is all angry while Vincent asks if he can scold him a little, since he is tarnishing the honor of Adenka. Our boy grabs Malone's hand firmly, smiling as he says he is happy to see him. Malone stands confused, since they are not close enough to speak like that. Our protagonist calmly mocks him, pointing out that despite leaving the main house long ago, he is still rank 9. Enraged, Malone calls out to Sizen and slaps him hard, asking whether this is how newcomers should behave toward their representative. He warns him that if this happens again, Sizen will be responsible. Vincent cannot believe that someone this rotten is a descendant of Arslan, but then he sees the reflection of Kajin in him and steps forward, punching Malone hard in the face. All the other cadets watch in shock as Malone charges forward to punch back. There is one thing our boy has learned in this era: martial artists do not value disposition. He dodges the blow, grabs Malone, and hurls him into the wall after striking him again. Malone collapses, while Vincent turns to the others, reminding them that the only fear allowed as a martial artist is respect, and urges them to overcome their fear, as it is the only path forward. In the midst of this, Malone stands again and rushes forward to attack our protagonist, demanding to know how he dares to challenge him in the residence hall. Malone stands up with his sword, ready to attack, but our boy dodges it effortlessly. Watching from the side, Julian whispers that they should turn this situation into an opportunity. Meanwhile, in a village near Fortress Ela, several monsters lie dead on the ground. An old man thanks Headmaster Herka, who stands proudly after finishing the subjugation. The elder asks if she will drink with them today as well. She hesitates for a moment, then agrees, stating that refusing would be rude. Unaware that Pagoda is right behind her, she is startled as he also asks for a drink, saying that he needs it since his superiors keep stressing him out. As they sit, Pagoda begins talking about the examination situation and the way Vincent struck only the assembly element. The headmaster nods as though she understands, but when Pagoda emphasizes it again, she admits she is not a mage, so she cannot grasp the details. Pagoda continues, pointing out how astonishing it is that Vincent knew about something even a 7-star martial artist like her had never heard of. Herka shows no interest, saying casually that another director, also a descendant, demolished an entire snow mountain. So our boy sounds more cowardly than impressive. She jokes that Pagoda must be excited after finding someone as cowardly as himself. Before he can reply, suddenly, the crystal glows again, informing them about a spar between Malone and Vincent, who has requested the presence of a mediator. Pagoda rushes back to the fortress where Rank 9 dormitory instructor Bronde apologizes for bothering him, explaining that he had no choice since it is a duel between two direct descendants. Pagoda says nothing and instructs him to forward all information related to Vincent. Pagoda then warns Malone for causing trouble in the resistance hall, though he adds that there will be no disciplinary action because Vincent officially requested the spar. He begins the duel, instructing both to fight honorably. Malone looks already shaken by the aura of the Crimson Lotus and mocks our hero, asking if he intends to imitate the father's with a cheap replica, calling it fake. They trade harsh remarks, and then Malone activates his trait, flooding the area with intense fear. All the surrounding students tremble, but our boy stands calmly, unaffected, leaving Julian confused. Julian wonders how he can remain steady, and Vincent answers quietly that it is because a swordsman must never fear another swordsman. Malone mocks the idea, asking if that nonsense is enough to resist a trait. Our hero responds that it is entirely about mental state and resolve. Back in the fight, Malone grows frustrated, unable to understand why his trait has no effect, and accuses him of trickery. He charges forward, his body glowing red, and unleashes a powerful slash that erupts like an explosion. When the smoke clears, he finds that our boy has disappeared. Before Malone can react, Vincent appears behind him and kicks. However, Malone blocks barely, but before he can regain balance, our hero rushes again and strikes with his sword. The powerful blow sends him flying to the ground. Everyone knows Malone is a terrible person, yet he maintains his status as cadet representative due to overwhelming power compared to other Rank 9 cadets. Saizen, who has been watching, reflects on this when a new figure arrives. Selbira enters and analyzes the scene, and then she notices Malone collapsed. Ignoring it all, Saizen praises our boy, recalling his words about fear and respect. Selbira calmly states that the fight is not finished. Malone's coercion trait is only one ability. He also possesses a blessing separate from it. Julian is thrilled, urging our hero to crush Malone completely. But Vincent finds the situation strange, wondering why victory has not been declared even after making his opponent drop his sword. At that moment, Malone's eyes snap open and a violent surge of golden energy erupts from his body. Selbira shouts that this is the blessing of the lightning giant, one of the greatest gods who grants mastery over lightning. Back on the battlefield, Malone rises as arcs of electricity erupt around him. The energy swallows our boy's arm as he struggles. Vincent's right arm is burned by the surge of electricity, while Malone laughs, mockingly asking if he enjoys the blessing of the lightning giant, the microcurrent boost. Julian watches in confusion. Before this moment, Malone only had the Daughter of Fear's trait, and because he had been bullied since childhood, there is no way Julian would not know about any blessing he possessed. Malone clears the confusion himself, saying that Julian would not know because, although he was born with the blessing, he mastered it only after arriving at the fortress. When our hero asks for how many years he has been hiding it, Malone dismisses the question, saying he simply found it annoying to reveal. The words leave Vincent in disbelief as Malone continues, explaining that children his age could not defeat him even when he used only coercion. He sees no purpose in suffering pain or undergoing harsh training, believing that once he reaches adulthood, the fortress will have no choice but to let him graduate, because he is a direct descendant. Unlike others, he claims he has no intention of working like a dog. Our boy finally erupts, declaring that the power Malone possesses is something others dedicate their entire lives to and never attain. He accuses Malone of disgracing the responsibility that comes with power, trampling on the efforts of others, and staining the honor of the Adenka name. Malone ignores him and charges forward, shouting that our hero should talk only if he wins. Vincent raises his sword, reminding his brother of the earlier statement that the Crimson Lotus was fake, and when he promised to sever his right wrist as he declared. Our protagonist has already used one of the true strikes against the illusory monster. Now he decides to finish this with the Dwarf King's absolute sword flash. Furious, Malone refuses to allow it and launches at him again. Vincent dodges at extreme speed while Malone unleashes destructive waves of power all around, tearing apart the hall. Suddenly, debris from the collapsing roof begins to fall toward Seri, who had been observing. Our boy panics, but Pagoda reacts instantly, shielding her with a barrier. He orders Bronde to evacuate all candidates and decides to teleport Seri away. She worries for the young master, but Pagoda notes that her body is overflowing with mana. Back on the battlefield, Malone screams for our hero to come down, calling him a coward. Running and evading, Vincent recognizes that the trait is powerful, but full of openings. He plans to find the perfect chance and reach the center with Frost Walk. However, his body gives out and he collapses, realizing that maintaining Frostwalk any longer like Railsa is impossible for him. One large step was already beyond his limit. Seeing him on the ground, Malone bursts into laughter, Meanwhile, Pagoda quietly admits his own mistake and tightens the mana barrier around the two fighters. Vincent grows frustrated, realizing the reduced space makes escape impossible. While Malone stands confidently, smiling with cruelty, our boy understands that using absolute sword flash is nearly impossible in his exhausted state. He wonders desperately what he should do. Just then, Julian offers an idea. Instead of slicing Malone, slice something else with the absolute sword flash. The opponent slams his foot on the floor, detonating another wave of energy. All focused, Vincent commits to Julian's strategy. He jumps and kicks off Pagoda's mana barrier, draining the final remnants of Frostwalk. Malone forms a roaring orb of lightning in his hand and hurls all his power forward, believing the fight is already won. But he has fallen for the trick. Our boy pierces the barrier itself, shattering it and sending the redirected blast crashing into the ceiling above. A massive portion of the roof collapses, burying Malone beneath the falling rubble. In the next instant, our hero lands atop him. He declares that the oath of a martial artist weighs more than anything. With the sword bestowed upon him by his father, he will defend Malone's honor. He refuses to allow Malone to become a liar as he raises his blade, prepared to sever Malone's wrist just as promised. With a smile, he cuts off Malone's wrist. Pagoda watches in disbelief, stunned that the mana barrier he created, a barrier formed from countless layered spells and sealed completely from the outside world, was shattered with a single slash of Vincent's sword. Malone collapses, groaning in pain. Just then, Pagoda immediately steps in, stopping the battle and declaring Vincent the victor. When our hero asks why he didn't interfere before the wrist was severed, Pagoda sighs, explaining that Malone himself had declared it during the spar, leaving him no choice. At that moment, Wilson arrives with the priest, as requested. Shevin, the 5th-class priest, approaches and demands to know who dared to carry the 2nd-class priest token. Our boy calmly answers that it belongs to him. Shevin then notices Malone and stares at him in disbelief, unable to accept the defeat as he also questions Vincent's right to possess such a token. Our boy simply smiles, noting how strange it is since the token grants the same privilege as its original owner. Shevin has no response because he knows our boy is correct. Someone of his rank has no right to challenge such matters. Shevin then asks if our hero wishes for treatment. He nods, and the priest begins healing Vincent's burned arm. From behind, Malone shouts, begging to have his own arm mended as well. Our boy turns and asks whether it is truly wise to restore an arm he wagered in an official match. If he fixes it now, Malone's honor will be destroyed. The realization hits Malone that he is forced to choose between pride and his right arm. Julian watches, satisfied by the revenge, as spectators rush down, cheering for our protagonist. Someone then states that time is running out, and once the severed limb dries, not even divine miracles can restore it. Finally, Malone demands treatment. When our hero pretends not to hear, Malone shouts again. Only then does Vincent instruct the priest to reattach the arm. Pagoda clears the rubble and the priest finishes the healing. Malone is told not to strain himself or train heavily. From the side, Sizen and Selbira watch, visibly impressed. Sizen suddenly asks if he can become like our hero, prompting Vincent to answer that he can, but only if he overcomes his fear. Meanwhile, Malone sits on the ground, jealousy twisting inside him, resenting how the honor he wanted has been stripped away. Silently, he vows that he is still the king here. He gathers lightning energy into a stone, preparing to crush our boy's skull, but Pagoda intercepts him. He warns that the only reason he tolerated Malone until now is because his hand must recover fully before the official match in 1 month. He is already burdened enough by a superior who neglects her duties and will not tolerate more problems. As a result, Malone backs down. A week later, Vincent stands in Pagoda's office. Julian quietly guides him on how to offer condolences in this era. Pagoda remarks that although Vincent was his sister's guest, if he's here for condolences, it is too late and makes the situation awkward. Their relationship has now shifted. Vincent returns to being the 7th son of a direct line, while Pagoda is merely the dean, once a lowly mercenary. Our boy hesitates until he remarks that Pagoda has known his name from the beginning. Pagoda admits it, then says that our hero is the one who personally investigated him and his sister and approached him intentionally, questioning the purpose. Vincent agrees. At first he wanted repayment for the investment, but after learning Pagoda's history, he re-examined himself. The story revealed a talentless child burdened by his origin, and Vincent simply wanted to speak with him honestly. Pagoda already knows of our boy's circumstances, but wonders if he will listen to what he wants to say. He begins recounting his past, running away from his family and from the Samyeon family's magic tower that suffocated him, becoming a mercenary, spending years on dangerous front lines. Unlike our hero, he carries no affection for family or siblings. Through it all, a simple question remains, and our boy asks why he still bears the family name. Meanwhile, Malone isolates himself in his room, ignored by other candidates. Rage boils inside him as he swears he will kill Vincent. Just then, a dark energy materializes before him, asking if he truly seeks revenge and whether he desires help. Back in the office, our hero says that the Dean's family is a renowned family that has led the magic towers for generations. If Pagoda were living as a mercenary, that type of background would have only gotten in his way. Before he can finish, Pagoda cuts him off, claiming he is nothing but a failure who does not even have a single star, and questioning why he is speaking as if he understands anything. His voice cracks as he says that Vincent could never know what he endured or how it felt to walk away from the magic tower. He leaves his chair in anger, stating that if the Samion and Adenka families were ever to go to war, he would destroy the magic tower that drained his life first. Vincent stands calmly, recognizing the pain in his voice. Pagoda is confused as our boy silently remembers his previous life, realizing he was the same. In the end, what he wanted was not revenge, but acceptance and love. According to our protagonist, the reason Pagoda has never forsaken his last name is because he still has lingering attachment to his family. Hearing that, Pagoda's eyes soften. He exhales and sits back in his chair. He reflects that his sister was talented and bright, and it would not be an exaggeration to say he endured all the bullying out of pure respect and admiration for her. Yet that same brilliance brought him misery. Taunts and insults followed him everywhere. He could no longer endure the pressure and abuse, so he ran away, abandoning his family. Pagoda lowers his gaze, admitting he thought he had seen through our hero, but it was the other way around. Vincent then asks him to be honest, because human emotions are never simple. Pagoda says he thinks he received more comfort than he could have asked for, and even though his sister is gone, he can finally be honest with himself. With a faint smile, he remarks that if our hero invested in the magic tower, it must not have been trivial. He declares that he will become Vincent's sponsor, and he no longer needs to worry about living expenses at the fortress. Vincent thanks him and leaves the office. Julian quietly comments that our boy must be gifted with words, since everyone they meet ends up falling for him. Meanwhile, Vincent claims that everything he said was genuine and heartfelt, and Julian praises his 500-year-old sense for people. As they continue down the hall, they see Sizun and Selbira waiting, congratulating him for gaining Pagoda's sponsorship. Selbira introduces herself kindly, saying that because she lives on the second floor, they never had a chance to meet properly. They shake hands, and our hero admits this is his first time hearing about the secondary candidate representative. She explains that because her brother failed to fulfill his responsibilities, she is now the one responsible for reporting to the instructors. Suddenly, Vincent senses that she carries the same trait as his mother, though not at a comparable level. Selbira possesses the discernment trait, allowing her to measure another person's power and hidden potential. She tries to assess how he defeated Malone, but then notices something unusual. He has no imaginary energy, and because of his crimson mana, evaluating his potential is impossible. He gently withdraws his hand, disliking being greeted by trait analysis. Selbira quickly apologizes, shaken by how he sensed it when even instructors cannot. Vincent lets it go and asks why they are out so late. Selbira returns the question, explaining that cadets are forbidden from roaming alone at night. When he asks why, Sizun says that getting lost in the cold can be dangerous, and they always use the buddy system. Selbira adds that one could even encounter the evil spirit of Darwin. Hearing the name, our boy becomes intrigued and asks for details. Sizun asks if he knows about the Archdemon from 500 years ago. He then explains that after Archdemon Darwin lost to the Hero King, his spirit scattered across the world. Fragments remain, capable of forming contracts with martial artists, granting immense power in exchange for their lives. The idea sparks realization in Vincent. That means the Archdemon truly existed, and perhaps the legend used to frame him was not entirely false. Stepping in, Selbira adds that contractors are reported from time to time, but most people dismiss the existence of spirits from 5 centuries ago. It seems impossible. Meanwhile, back in his room, the dark spirit approaches Malone, offering to form a contract and help him achieve whatever he desires. Malone asks if it is the spirit of Davin, and black energy swarms around him, saying the name is unimportant and only his goal matters. Malone hesitates, but the spirit pushes deeper, insisting that he reclaim his position as king. Soon after, our boy returns to his room with Sizun, who excuses himself to take his night watch shift. As he leaves, Vincent notices Malone's bed is empty. Meanwhile outside, Sizun wanders the dark hallway with a lamp, muttering that the night is terrifying. Suddenly his arm is severed in an instant. A voice speaks behind him, saying he was aiming for the throat but missed. Black energy coils through the darkness as Sizun sees Malone approaching, asking where Vincent is. Seeing Malone's appearance, Sizun questions whether he has formed a contract with an evil spirit. He draws his sword, which angers Malone, who mocks him for becoming braver than before. As Sizun stands up, unshaken and no longer afraid, Malone grabs him by the throat and slams him brutally onto the floor, declaring that anyone who points a sword at him will be executed. He is moments away from delivering the killing blow when Brande flashes forward, blocking with his sword. Brande accuses Malone of abandoning the pride of a martial artist by contracting with an evil spirit. Malone does not respond to the accusation, only saying that crushing Brande will be even more fun. Brande, however, knows he cannot defeat him, having realized that his strike did not penetrate Malone's defense at all. He orders Cizin to sound the alarm. Meanwhile, in his room, Vincent wonders why Malone has not returned yet. At that moment, the alarm begins to ring. When he asks about it, the others explain that the alarm only sounds when something serious happens to the night watch. He rushes out with the other candidates and encounters Selbira on the way. She tells him she has no idea what is happening, only that she came as soon as she heard the alarm. Our boy suddenly catches the scent of blood and tells Selbira to contact Dean using her communication crystals and report an emergency. She hesitates, worried because it is the middle of the night, but he senses that the situation is dire and that they must call someone of higher rank. He shouts for everyone to follow him outside. They soon notice the alarm has already stopped, which means the battle has likely ended. The flow of mana has also ceased, confirming that the fight is over and someone has already won. Vincent asks Selbira if there is any defensive seal they can deploy. When asked why, he explains that if the defenders had won, they would still be contracted with mana. Since they are not, the enemy must have won. Selbira knows one of the 7 basic seals of Adenka, the triangular defensive seal, but explains that it requires a martial artist of 5-star rank or higher to stand at the center of the triangle, otherwise the formation will collapse. If they can find Instructor Bronda, they might be able to activate it. As they reach the training grounds, Bronde's body rolls into view, stopping at their feet. At the same moment, Malone charges toward them, overflowing with dark energy. At first, our boy does not recognize the aura, but soon the balance phase appears within it, making him question what Malone has done. Selbira identifies it as dark aura, the same as those martial artists who were once possessed by the evil spirit of Davin. But Vincent cannot understand how that is possible, because he is here already. The realization hits him that he's going to fight his own self. Malone unleashes his coercive trait, causing everyone to freeze in terror. Vincent shouts for them to hold their ground, reminding them that they are martial artists and commanding them not to get afraid and to use the sword. Malone realizes that our boy is breaking the coercion and freeing everyone from fear. Meanwhile, Vincent thinks of how easily the 5-star martial artist Bronde was defeated and wonders if he can withstand Malone at his current level. He suppresses the doubt, understanding that they must stall for time until the reinforcements Selbira summoned arrive. These inexperienced rank 9 cadets will have to endure for now. He asks Selbira whether she can activate the seal perfectly. She nods. He then declares that they will manifest the triangular defensive seal together. Selbira is shocked, reminding him that they require a 5-star martial artist at the center. Our boy finally announces that he will be the one to center the seal. Hearing this, Selbira protests, saying that Vincent is not a 5-star martial artist and will collapse the moment they manifest the seal. Our boy replies that she is the current cadet representative, and she must make the decision that protects everyone. His words convince her. She orders everyone to form the triangular defensive seal with Vincent as the center. Malone watches them and smiles, asking if Vincent would rather die by overloading himself than be killed by him. But our hero just smiles back, saying that if Malone is stopped by a group of rank 9 cadets, even after contracting an evil spirit, it will be humiliating. Malone remains unfazed, saying he will tear the seal apart. Julian, in panic, begs our boy to run, insisting that none of this will work. But our boy stands firm. He knows he could have escaped earlier, but if he did, everyone behind him would already be dead. Following Selbira's instructions, the team begins creating the seal. Immediately, Vincent feels the pressure, like mana is bursting inside his body, but he forces himself to endure. Laughing, Malone taunts Vincent, asking if he is already collapsing, then strikes with a powerful blow. The shield holds, stopping the attack completely and leaving Malone disappointed. Our hero points his sword forward, asking if that is all Malone can do. The provocation pushes Malone to attack harder, but even under the immense force, the seal doesn't break. Vincent silently thanks the evil spirit sealed within him, knowing that the lightning giant's power has grown stronger. Meanwhile, Malone unleashes his coercive trait again. Fear spreads among the cadets, and they begin trembling. But Vincent shouts for them to stand firm, reminding them that the only fear a martial artist is allowed to feel is respect, and they must not fear someone who has abandoned all honor. Standing behind him, Selbira is stunned. She wonders how someone his age can carry the weight of the seal and still inspire everyone so powerfully. Refusing to fall behind, she orders the group to load mana on her signal. She counts down, and they unleash the combined force, blasting Malone backward. Our hero tells Malone to surrender, warning him that high-ranked martial artists will arrive soon, and surrendering now might spare him a disastrous fate. Malone remains silent for a moment before the evil spirit whispers to him, driving him forward. Dark energy erupts again as he rises, declaring that he will kill every one of them, even if it costs his life. Vincent feels the pressure and realizes Malone is preparing a massive attack. The enemy strikes, shaking the ground violently. Selbira warns everyone to watch for the rocks erupting upward, but they are struck anyway, as the seal begins to fracture. A final blow lands and black energy bursts outward. When the smoke clears, the formation still stands because Cizin has stepped in, supporting the collapsing barrier. Seeing Saizen alive, Malone goes wild with rage, demanding to know how he survived after being defeated along with Instructor Brond. Not even able to stand, Saizen says he is no longer afraid of Malone. The words enrage him even further, and he charges. Vincent tells everyone to endure a little longer. The seal is at its breaking point and Saizen cannot last much longer. But then Vincent notices something strange. Even though he is not going to slash, he can clearly see the sword's path. He sees a black sword path flowing through Malone's right hand. Waiting for reinforcements is his first priority, but the defensive seal is already at its limit. He hesitates, unsure whether he should use his flash or not. With the seal moments from breaking, he realizes he has no choice left. He shouts to Selbira that the seal is about to collapse and tells her to brace for impact. Vincent activates his sword and rushes forward at full speed, attempting to follow the path he saw. But the technique fails, and he cannot flash through Malone. He prepares to attempt again. Malone laughs, mocking him, and gathers power for another strike. Black energy erupts and swallows Vincent completely. Selbira and Saizen scream out, but from within the darkness our boy forces his way through. His left arm is badly damaged and he can barely grip his sword, but retreat is no longer an option. He charges again with everything he has. Malone catches his arm mid-air, asking if Vincent thinks he is a fool who would be struck down so easily. He questions why he is wielding a sword with an arm that is already ruined, then burns our hero's hand with black energy, almost forcing the sword to fall. Vincent recalls his previous life, and how he never had the chance to fight with everything he had. He refuses to lose the sword now. He grabs it with his remaining hand just before it drops, and unleashes his absolute sword slash. The blow disarms Malone, cutting away his arm and sending him screaming in agony. The force slams him into the ground and a blast of energy explodes outward. When the smoke clears, Malone rises again, roaring about losing his arm twice. Our hero notices something. The aura of the evil spirit is gone. He wonders if that mysterious black sword path was meant to sever the connection between Malone and the evil spirit. But Malone is still furious, declaring that he will tear Vincent to shreds. A dark orb forms in Malone's hand as Vincent realizes it is not over. If he wants to stop Malone completely, he must strike once more, but his body is numb and he cannot move. Without caring, Malone charges toward him with overwhelming force. Our protagonist remembers the strength everyone lent to him and he cannot stop here. He must uncover the truth of what happened 500 years ago. Just as Malone is about to strike, a voice commands him to stop. A lightning thread appears, wrapping around Malone and paralyzing him instantly. Pagoda has finally arrived. Malone screams his name, but Pagoda coldly tells him not to act as if they know each other, forming a magic circle beneath him. Headmaster Herka arrives, ordering Malone to stop. She explains that once a complete seal is achieved, there is no escape. This is sealing magic that binds the target together with their inner image, the crystal prison. Its only weakness is the long preparation time, but any martial artist with mana is unable to escape it. Malone curses Vincent, shouting that it is not over. A surge of ice erupts, engulfing him completely and freezing him. Headmaster Herka approaches Vincent, who is on the verge of collapse. She gently supports him, saying that Pagoda praised him greatly, and he has saved many lives today. Our boy is too exhausted to speak as she pats him softly and says she will take responsibility from here. The other cadets run to him, asking if he is all right. Soon after, when Vincent opens his eyes, he is in a white room filled with mirrors. Confused, he asks where he is. Julian appears in front of him, angrily scolding him for recklessly destroying his body. Headmaster Herka stands before Vincent's father. She greets him formally, addressing him as Suradenka. But the patriarch asks her to drop the formalities and speak comfortably. She hesitates, adjusting her tone, and calls him Brother Khan instead. When he asks what happened, Herka reports that 15 rank 9 candidates have sustained serious injuries. Fortunately, there were no deaths among them, but there was one casualty among the instructors, a 5-star martial artist named Bronde. She also tells him that Cadet Saizen survived after enduring a direct battle against Malone. The patriarch expresses his deepest respect for Instructor Bronde and his family, and for all those injured. He instructs Herka not to hesitate in supporting them fully until they recover, but she lowers her head, blaming herself, saying that she could have prevented the tragedy if she had acted sooner. The patriarch reassures her that contractors of evil spirits involve countless variables, and her decision to use a long preparation sealing spell was not wrong. However, he asks why Malone is still alive after forming a contract. Contractors normally gain overwhelming power in exchange for their life, and they die when the power collapses. Herka explains that the dispatch mages from the fortress analyzed the situation. According to testimony from the cadets who fought, Malone was freed from possession the moment he was slashed by Vincent, and the arm he lost did not regenerate. There was no other detectable anomaly. The patriarch wonders if it was related to the strange swordsmanship Vincent used during the assembly of the true sword. He announces disciplinary action for Malone For abandoning the honor of a martial artist and forming a contract with an evil spirit, he will be confined to the guest house for the rest of his life. His imagery will be sealed, and the tendons of each limb will be severed so he can never wield a sword again. He then states that Vincent must be rewarded, and asks where he is. Herka explains that Vincent was moved to the main house after emergency treatment, but he has not regained consciousness for several days. Meanwhile, inside the White Room, Vincent questions Julian about where they are. Julian has no answer. He was dragged in when Vincent collapsed. Looking around, he suspects they are trapped inside Malone's memories. Our hero is shocked, unable to understand how this could happen. Julian asks whether it is connected to that mysterious swordsmanship Vincent used, but even in his previous life, he has never experienced being sealed inside an opponent's memories. He thinks about Malone, the evil contract, and the absolute slash, trying to understand how they intersect. Just then, a mirror appears behind them, revealing Malone's past. Malone stands arrogantly, refusing training to control Lightning Vein, boasting that he is already the strongest among the Rank 9. Vincent and Julian watch silently. Pagoda appears and scolds Malone, warning that he will make a fool of himself on stage if he refuses to train. He tells him that unless he wants to die publicly, he must manifest the lightning giant immediately. The mention of the stage makes Vincent suspect that Pagoda had a reason for overlooking Malone's behavior. Back in memory, Malone finally complies and activates the lightning mana. Julian and our hero are stunned to see the exact mana flow of the lightning giant. Black smoke suddenly surrounds the space. Julian disappears. A woman emerges from the darkness. It's Vincent's own mother, whispering that he should die. Memories rush in. His master Falcon, Arslan, and others turning their backs on him, leaving him behind as he calls for them to stop. Then Kayan appears, plunging a blade into Vincent's chest. And then, he is suddenly in Samion prison again, where Arslan once stood before him, declaring his intent to fight for honor. Now a grown Arslan appears. Vincent freezes, confused. The last time he saw Arslan alive was 500 years ago, when he was still young. He has never seen him grown. Just then, Arslan speaks, but the words are muffled. Our hero shouts for him to repeat it, but still can't hear. Arslan only mouths the final words, that they will meet again in 500 years, no matter what. Vincent falls backward into darkness, screaming. He jolts awake in his bed, clutching his head. Confusion crashes over him as he questions what Arslan has done to him. Julian suddenly appears, checking on him, admitting that he got scared when our hero disappeared without warning. Vincent looks at his bandaged hand and says that he is all right, and it seems like his body has already healed. While he silently thinks about the memories he saw, about the grown Arslan who came to see him before his death, Wilson and Sari rush into the room, overwhelmed with relief that their young master has finally awakened, clinging to him emotionally. Vincent smiles, happy to see how much they worried. Headmaster Herka enters the room, asking if she is interrupting a touching moment and offering to return later. When asked, she introduces herself in a friendly manner. Soon after, when the servants leave, she sits beside him, telling him not to worry about greetings or formal manners, and to call her sister instead. Our boy questions why he is here, worrying about the Crimson Fortress, but the headmaster assures him that she had to report the incident to his father. Pagoda is far better than her at managing the fortress, so things are fine without her. She explains that she is planning to take care of business in the central region and return in 3 days with our boy. With a peculiar smile, she asks him for a favor. When he asks what it is, she wonders if he is willing to duel with the young master of the Samion family. Hearing this, he panics for a moment, but Herka clarifies that she wants him to compete in the upcoming friendly exchange meeting, a grand event where the Samion and Adenka families test their martial talent before both patriarchs. This year, the event is being held at the Crimson Fortress, meaning both the Samion patriarch and young master will be present. She explains that Malone was originally scheduled to participate, but since the situation changed, he is the only direct descendant close enough in age and skill to replace him. The memories he saw and Pagoda's mention of the stage were referring to this event. His opponent will be the 6th son of the Samion family, a genius with the prospect of becoming the next patriarch. Nobody expected to win, not even Malone. Aside from Dea, no one has ever won at the friendly exchange meeting. She tells him not to feel pressured and to treat it as a good experience. Vincent refuses to participate with the intent to lose, believing that doing so would go against the will of Adenka. The headmaster stands and pats his head, saying she likes his mentality. Just then, the patriarch appears and asks if he will take responsibility for those words. Our boy replies that he already proved himself during the assembly of the true sword. Hearing that, the patriarch tells him the pressure this time will be incomparable, but our hero still promises victory. The patriarch accepts and leaves, telling him to rest. Walking down the hall, the patriarch realizes they still have not rewarded Vincent. The headmaster asks what he has decided, and he responds that he will accompany her back to the fortress, and Vincent's name will be engraved on the Crimson Mountain, a place reserved for heroes of Adenka. Only those with extraordinary achievements have their names carved there, and no one has received that honor in rank 9 except Dea. The headmaster is stunned, but the patriarch ends the conversation, saying he will see her in 9 days. Meanwhile, in his room, Vincent thinks about the exchange meeting. The will of the Adenka family is to surpass the Samion family. One day, they must overcome them with their sword. This is the perfect chance to learn the Samion family's current strength. However, something still troubles him. He calls Julian, asking if he knows anything about the sixth son of Samion. Julian says he never expected Malone to turn out like this, so he never researched the meeting or the opponent. When asked about the odds, Julian says the absolute sword slash gives them an advantage, but realistically, the probability is low. At best, Vincent will reach 3 stars, but his opponent, trained under elite Samion standards, will be above that. Vincent understands the gap will be vast. Determined, he stands, saying he needs to move his body. Julian panics, reminding him that he has severe internal damage and must rest, but our hero says his body has healed and he just needs to refrain from using mana. He begins training harder, fueled by the weight of his past life and the feelings tied to this match. Revan arrives, watching him closely, saying the training reminds him of the old days when they first relied on their swords together. Our boy looks at Revan as he smiles warmly. They both sit at the table. Revan says he heard that our boy suffered serious injuries and is relieved to see him looking healthy. Vincent thanks him warmly, admitting he didn't expect Revan to visit. Revan then explains that he found something related to the events from 500 years ago, though he is not certain about its accuracy. When asked what he means, he says he was curious about his own family. Aside from him, no one in his lineage was exceptionally gifted in martial arts, and their estate and finances are average compared to other collateral families. Revan found it strange that his father, who is neither talented in martial arts nor wealthy, was still able to participate in the assembly of true swords as a regular spectator for years. After persistent questioning, his father finally revealed the truth and led him to a bookshelf filled with old volumes. When Revan placed his hand on it, a magic circle activated and a hidden gate opened. It was a restricted archive, an underground record hall containing the unknown history of Adenka, preserved by his family for generations. It stores the complete light and dark history of the first Adenka. Their family earned its status by maintaining this archive, but if it were ever exposed, they alone would suffer the consequences. Inside, Revan discovered the Book of History, where the records of the Hisley family remain untouched. Vincent realizes that if those records exist, they could prove his innocence. However, Revan explains that he must first succeed his father before gaining the authority to reveal any of it, so it may take a long time. Our hero expresses sincere gratitude, saying that this alone is already enough. He asks if Revan is sure about sharing something so confidential, but Revan laughs it off, saying he already bet his life on Vincent, so this is nothing. He then suddenly remembers something and takes out a magic crystal. He says he wants to repair his broken sword, and someone asked him to deliver this to Vincent. It contains a message from Hansen, who starts by warning that he is unsure if the crystal will function perfectly, since it has not been used in years. Vincent greets him instinctively, but Revan reminds him it is a recorded message, and asks if he knows how expensive communication crystals are. Vincent quickly covers it up, saying he was only joking. The message continues. Hansen says that our hero should keep the crystal since it has basic light and video recording functions. Then he explains his discovery about the dragon skeleton. A perfect dragon skeleton sword cannot be reforged. He reminds him of the fire of the workshop from back then. When he began hammering the Crimson Lotus after transplanting the skeleton, an uncontrollable flame erupted. As Vincent already knows, the dragon skeleton absorbs the mana temperament of its user. Hansen possesses a divine blessing called the Unwavering Flame, which the Crimson Lotus must have absorbed, causing the explosion. Forging something of that level safely is nearly impossible. He admits he cannot create a sword greater than the Crimson Lotus in his current state. However, after experimenting with a small piece of the dragon skeleton, he learned that power absorbed by one section does not affect the remaining parts. If Vincent used the skeleton as material for a forging hammer instead, something extraordinary could be possible, but doing so would leave no material for the sword itself. He shares this only for reference, though the possibility is high. The recording ends. Our hero understands. If he can obtain more dragon skeleton, he can forge the perfect sword. Just then, Revan stands, saying he will return straight to the workshop since he left his sword there. If Vincent wants to send a message to Hansen, now is the time. Our protagonist asks him to tell Hansen to forge a hammer from the dragon skeleton, and that he will find the remaining pieces needed for the sword. Revan expected that response. They shake hands, and Revan tells him not to return on a stretcher again before leaving. In the hallway, Julian appears, asking what is going on with Revan and Hansen, calling it useless information. Vincent replies that possibilities matter. All that is left is to grow stronger and find a path forward, and everything begins with defeating the sixth son of Samion. He asks Julian if he knows any method to win. Julian sighs, saying Vincent always starts something and expects him to complete it. Right now, they could not beat Malone without possession, so how could they defeat someone even stronger? Our hero agrees, admitting that Malone's trait was extremely troublesome, with wide-range attacks and force strong enough to break through his body strengthening. Julian thinks that if they could obtain the blessing of the lightning giant, victory might be possible. It isn't impossible, since they saw the mana flow in Malone's memories. Vincent doubts they can awaken a trait through mere memory, but Julian interrupts, saying it would be impossible if it were human memory. But if it is the memory of a god, then it becomes possible. Our hero asks Julian if he really memorized the mana flow of the lightning giant. Julian confirms it, and Vincent decides to attempt obtaining the blessing immediately. But Julian stops him, explaining that this is exactly why he hadn't acted yet. Lightning-type mana is the most destructive of all elemental powers, and the lightning giant is the strongest among the elemental gods. If they attempt it now, Vincent's body will be destroyed before the blessing can take hold. They must first recover as much mana as possible before returning to the fortress. Julian sets strict rules, forbidding Vincent from using any techniques from 500 years ago, and warns that if he breaks even one rule, he won't teach him the lightning mana flow. Our hero finally agrees, vowing not to break the rules. 3 days later, they arrive at the Crimson Fortress. Several carriages travel forward, and inside one sit Headmaster Herka and Vincent. When Vincent asks if they were supposed to walk to the entrance due to security protocols, the headmaster admits that was a lie. The fortress cannot be kept concealed that way. It was only a formality for the welcoming ritual he already experienced. Vincent then remarks that there seem to be more carriages than before, prompting the headmaster to explain that he is receiving the engraving ceremony, leaving him stunned. Soon, they arrive at the mountain. In a large chamber, a long list carved into stone displays the names of past heroes. At that moment, the third direct descendant, Hannah Adenka, appears with 4 others lining up behind her. All rank cadets begin gathering. The 5th cadet, Abel Adenka, steps forward, followed by the rank 8 cadet, the 5th direct descendant's son, Danian Adenka. Vincent watches the direct descendants closely, seeing them all together for the first time. They are extraordinary, especially the first rank representative Hannah, whose intensity gives him chills. Selbira also joins the group as the 9th candidate. The atmosphere shifts as whispers spread about who will perform the engraving. Everyone fears the same answer, the Patriarch himself. Then, Patriarch Khan appears, and silence falls. He calls for Vincent, who steps forward, having never expected such an honor. But this is not a gift. He has earned it. The Patriarch asks for Vincent's sword, and declares that he will engrave using our hero's blade. With a single swing, the energy splits stone. Vincent realizes his father simply infused mana and moved effortlessly. All his children witness his true power as our boy's name is permanently carved into Crimson Mountain. The Patriarch tells him never to forget his name, and Vincent nods in acknowledgement. Later, in the common hall, everyone excitedly discusses the ceremony, praising the Patriarch and relieved that Vincent looks healthy. Selbira interrupts, asking where our boy is, wanting to throw a celebration. Sizen guesses that he must be in the training grounds. There, Vincent stands while Julian instructs him, telling him to position himself and sense 3 points. Before continuing, Julian suddenly starts crying, overwhelmed by the moment. He remembers being called worthless, yet Vincent still received the engraving. He asks how our hero remains unaffected. He answers calmly that they still have much to achieve, and they do not waste time crying or laughing over trivial things. He tells Julian to stop because they need the blessing of the lightning giant if they hope to meet the Patriarch's expectations. Julian wipes his tears and resumes training. Our hero repeats the process several times until he can feel the flow clearly. Julian then reminds him to focus on forming a perfect triangle. The shape forms and light erupts. Julian wonders if they succeeded as a golden radiance fills the chamber, and a massive figure materializes before them. The lightning giant stands before their eyes. They have succeeded. Suddenly, Vincent screams as the energy floods through him. His eyes glow and his body becomes engulfed in lightning and power as he roars. Vincent roars in agony as the lightning energy rampages through his body, tearing him apart from the inside. The lightning god steps forward, observing the scene with interest, finding it amusing that a human has acquired divinity entirely through his own effort. He glances at Julian and remarks that there have always been fools like him throughout history. When Julian demands to know what happened to Vincent, the god explains that they summoned him by triggering the blessing, so our hero simply granted the power that was asked for, nothing more. Julian refuses to believe that a human could end up like this just from receiving the blessing, especially after they had completely restored Vincent's body. But the lightning god points at the exposed skeletal structure, explaining that Vincent's unique physique absorbed mana like a sponge, far more than any ordinary human body could withstand. Our hero's bones begin to glow violently as he continues to scream in agony. Witnessing it all, Julian panics, asking what they should do since Vincent will die at this rate. The god replies that the solution is simple: stop the mana flow. If they cut it off now, the ripening process will cease, but Vincent will never again receive another blessing. Julian is stunned while the god continues, telling them to choose: stop the flow and live without blessings, or endure the pain and live with divine power, or die in the attempt. Julian calls it insane and senseless, His words anger the lightning god, who reminds him that he himself triggered the summoning and is the one who absorbed more power than he deserved. He orders Julian to know his place, calling him an incomplete god. Julian realizes through tears that Vincent refuses to stop the flow, because he knows he will lose everything if he does. The lightning god tells our hero to control the raging energy inside him and contain it within his body if he wants to fully receive the blessing. Julian refuses to stand by while Vincent risks death. Despite his weak divine energy, he tries to protect our boy's heart. A purple circle forms around the heart for a moment, relieving him briefly, but it shatters almost immediately. The lightning is too strong. Julian tries to hold on, knowing that if the heart bursts, both of them are doomed. He begins to fade away, his body dissolving from the sheer strain of divine power. Terrified, he screams that he doesn't want to die and releases the power. Our hero collapses to the ground as Julian fully begins to disappear, crying out for help. At that moment, a figure rushes in, the priest, the healer who once saved Malone and had been dispatched from the fortress. Julian realizes his voice reached someone with holy power. The priest recognizes the young master and shouts his name. Even now, Vincent has not given up, and Julian refuses to either. He swears that he will overcome being called a good-for-nothing and will not lose here. Julian calls out to the priest, confirming that he can hear him, and identifying himself as Vincent's acquaintance god, insisting that our boy needs immediate healing. The priest cannot approach because the lightning surrounding Vincent is too dangerous. Julian promises to block the lightning while the priest heals. Julian puts everything he has into suppressing the lightning. Finally, the storm quiets and the divine barrier holds long enough for the priest to begin the healing process. Meanwhile, in the pagoda office, Sari steps inside. When asked if she is prepared, she answers with resolve that she is ready to learn sorcery. Pagoda asks Sari if she remembers the sparks that burst out between Vincent and Malone when he saved her from the falling rocks. He explains that he sensed an incredibly strong mana within her body, something far beyond the current study of magic. Like young Master Vincent, the mana she carries lies outside the boundaries of modern understanding. Pagoda steps forward, warning her that learning magic will not be easy. He has never been gentle in teaching anyone, but Sari stands firm. Since young Master Vincent keeps growing and advancing further along a path where she can no longer follow, she refuses to remain someone who only patches up his wounds after battles. She does not want to live as someone helpless anymore. She wants the strength to stand beside him, even if she remains his servant. Pagoda smiles, acknowledging that Vincent has a loyal and worthy person beside him. However, because she is a servant, she must receive Vincent's permission before training. Before anything else can be said, lightning tears through the windows violently from outside. Pagoda rushes out. The ground is demolished and Vincent kneels at the center of a crater. When Pagoda asks what happened, Shevin tells them not to worry. Vincent is all good, and it looks like he has gained a massive opportunity. Soon after, as the situation settles, Sari steps forward and requests permission to begin her magic training immediately. Julian supports her, saying that having a servant personally instructed by Pagoda would bring great honor, and this is the right time. Vincent notices that Julian looks faded, though Julian insists he will recover with rest. Back inside, Sari kneels, promising that even if the path is difficult, she will help him in any way she can. Vincent accepts this, granting permission and asking Pagoda to take care of her. Pagoda, monitoring Malone's growth, recognizes that Vincent now possesses the power of the lightning giant. As our hero watches Pagoda assigning Sari her lesson plan, he realizes that she now has a teacher, while he has none. He still hasn't learned the swordsmanship left behind by Arslan for the Adenka. As Pagoda prepares to leave, our boy stops him, bringing up the upcoming friendly exchange meeting. He needs to devote everything to his training and asks who will be responsible for teaching him inside the fortress. Pagoda is surprised, asking if Vincent truly didn't know that he must find a teacher himself. Our hero is stunned. He thought the fortress was a training institute. Pagoda explains that the facilities and environment are exceptional, but above all, this place is a fortress. Elders from each family sponsor the candidate who may become a successor. Some martial artists may volunteer, but as a collateral descendant, he must secure a sponsor personally. Vincent fumbles, unable to answer. Pagoda wonders if they have chosen the wrong person. When our boy asks Julian, he admits that they have no elder on their side. No one will volunteer to sponsor someone branded a good-for-nothing. There is nothing he can do. With no options left, Vincent thinks of the only person he believes might help. Meanwhile, in Raelsa's office, Wilson arrives with Vincent's letter. When she asks what it is, he explains that it is addressed to the Patriarch. She questions why he brought it to her instead of delivering it directly. Wilson admits he was afraid and asks her to deliver it. Later, Raelsa stands before the Patriarch, who has already read the letter. She asks what is written, and he explains that Vincent needs a teacher. Realization hits her. She was so focused on enrolling him into the fortress that she overlooked such a critical matter. The Patriarch also reveals that Vincent has acquired the lightning giant. He asks if Raelsa understands why Vincent sent the letter. To her, it is clear. He asked his father for help, because this is the only place he has left to turn. The Patriarch remembers that Raelsa previously instructed his son, and orders her to go. But Raelsa refuses, explaining that she only taught using the swordsmanship of the ruined family, not the Adenkas. If she teaches him any longer, he will learn incorrect habits. The patriarch asks what he should do. Raelsa proposes someone appropriate, someone powerful that the patriarch knows well, a swordsman who uses the true swordsmanship of the Adenka, and a former possessor of the lightning giant once called the Thunder Giant. She asks that the patriarch use his authority to create a position within the fortress, so that this man may become Vincian's teacher. Hearing this, the patriarch recognizes that this solution must be chosen by the person himself. Raelsa tells him not to worry. The man is also his friend, and she will convince him. The candidate is the white captain of the White Sword Unit, Merlin. Meanwhile, near the doorways of the practice grounds, Merlin stands silently, staring at a training dummy. It reminds him of our boy, who trained there many months ago. He wonders how Vincian is doing now. Raelsa approaches, interrupting his thoughts and asking if he is heading out for another walk. Soon after, inside the room they sit. Merlin comments that Raelsa is always busy and doubts she has come simply to check up on him. Raelsa gets straight to the point, offering him a new position. When he asks where, she reveals that it is at a training institution within the Yellow Dragon unit. Merlin sighs, noting that the word sword is no longer even included in the unit name, and immediately refuses. Raelsa explains there is someone she wants him to teach. When he asks who, she mentions Vincian living in the Crimson Fortress. Merlin freezes as Raelsa admits that the elders wouldn't even look at him, that he is young. His chances of becoming a potential patriarch are extremely low. It is nearly impossible to find anyone willing to sponsor him. Yet Merlin still refuses. However, when Raelsa mentions that our boy has acquired the blessing of the lightning giant, Merlin finally shows interest. Even so, he argues that there are too many reasons to reject the offer. He is constantly pushed around to different positions because the elders dislike him, and now Raelsa wants him to teach someone who has not been accepted by them either. Raelsa proposes a bet. She explains that young Master Vincian is set to duel young Master Samion soon. If our hero wins, Merlin must become his teacher. A few days pass. Friendly exchange meeting day 7. Inside the fortress training ground, Vincian trains endlessly. Exhausted but determined, he pushes himself further, deciding that he must truly make the lightning giant's power his own. Lightning erupts around him as he roars. He thinks it is still not enough to merely wrap lightning around his sword. He must refine it into a controlled ray like Malone once did. He increases the output, but the flow spirals out of control. Julian sighs, noting that Vincian still cannot control it. Our hero admits he can feel the lightning saturating every corner of his body, but that only makes control harder. Julian wonders how Malone managed to carry so much of this power. At this scale, it can no longer be called microcurrent boost. It is returning to the pure level of microcurrent, a performance far beyond what their training should allow. Vincian interrupts, reminding Julian that he worked extremely hard to acquire it, tears and all. Julian realizes our boy heard everything and becomes embarrassed, asking him to forget it. Vincian tells him not to be embarrassed and asks about Raelsa's reply. In the letter, Raelsa apologizes. Due to the current situation, they will not be able to obtain a teacher before the friendly exchange meeting. The first reason is the intended teacher's refusal, and the second is the elders' interference. The elders do not want a disruption to the existing structure among the descendants. They exist to keep the patriarch's power in check, so not even the patriarch can enforce this matter. She wishes she could help directly, but she cannot abandon her responsibilities as the Grand Chamberlain. Vincian declares that this year's friendly exchange meeting will be won by his own strength alone. He asks Julian to utilize absolute sword slash and any other abilities without restraint. Julian agrees and suggests another method. Vincian can use Samion's swordsmanship just as he once did at Hansen's workshop. Our hero can execute it, but if he uses it in public, the consequences will be severe. The Samion clan will drag him back to Mother. Unable to use the swordsmanship of his past life, Vincian grows frustrated. A skill from his past life gives him another idea, using someone else's technique. He wonders whether it is possible with his current body. Meanwhile, at the main castle of the Samion Archduchy, a blue-eyed tiger is chained and roaring. A guy stands before it, acknowledging the beast as the Forced Mountain, the monster that even Adenka has to kill when entering the Crimson Fortress. Just then, the elder of the Samion family, Julian Samion, enters. He reports that the opponent for the friendly exchange meeting has been chosen again. It is the 7th son, once known as a good-for-nothing. He is a direct descendant who has recently shown strange accomplishments and is rising quickly among the ranks. To the Samions, the friendly exchange meeting is an event that brings more harm than good. If the guy wins, nothing changes. But if he loses, the humiliation will be unbearable. What people crave is a dramatic victory of an underdog rising to glory. When asked what he intends to do, the man states that he will absolutely crush Vincian. Just then, the white-eyed tiger releases from its chains, but the guy cuts it down as it leaps. He vows to show the world that such touching stories do not exist. The man is the 6th son of the direct line, Jagan Samion. Celebra rushes down the hallway, clutching a crystal tightly, wondering if Vincian would genuinely appreciate the gift. She opens the gate and calls his name, but an overwhelming surge of light and energy bursts out, forcing her a step back. Our boy stands in the center, holding a sword that looks enormous. Celebra is stunned for a moment, whispering to herself the skill name, realizing that he is wielding a sword that doesn't look like Crimson Lotus. Vincent sets the sword aside and greets her. She fumbles nervously, then reveals the crystal with overflowing excitement, announcing that she has brought him a gift. He barely reacts and simply asks if it is an enchanted crystal, but Celebra says that what is inside matters more. It contains the spar of the sixth son of Samion Kagon. A bright smile forms on our boy's face as he thanks her and takes it. She blushes, warning him to be careful, since it's a bit cruel. He activates the crystal. A projection of the fight appears, and he is fascinated once again by the technology of this era. But as he watches, his expression hardens. He predicts Kagon's movement, the left foot forward to fake a lower body strike, forcing the opponent to defend, followed by a hidden heavy blow to shatter the sword. In the projection, the opponent admits defeat, yet Kagon continues beating his face ruthlessly. Rage rises in Vincent as he wonders why he is exactly like Kajin. Looks might be a coincidence, but the technique, the habits, every motion mirror Kajin from the past. Determined, he decides he must meet Kagan Samion. Elsewhere, the clock figures gather. The mage captain, Alberto, slams his hand on the table, silencing the room and welcoming all mages for the discussion of the friendly exchange meeting. Pagoda and the others are present. Alberto explains that the event has 3 stages: the treasure hunt to recover ancient Dongyeon chests, the subjugation stage facing captured monsters, and finally the spar, considered the blossom of the meeting. The mages are responsible for the treasure hunt, and he asks them to decide the type of beast they will create. Pagoda speaks first, proposing level 8 reptiles or demons, believing it appropriate for 3-star martial artists. But the associate of the 6th magic tower interrupts, suggesting the level 8 giant beast, Fracture. Pagoda immediately objects, arguing that giants are fit for 4th or 5th stars, and would be unfair. The 6th tower dismisses him, saying that if this is the first exchange in 1,000 years, something exciting is necessary, and reminds him that both sides bear equal responsibility. Pagoda erupts, accusing them of wanting to make the 6th young master shine, but the 6th tower fires back, calling his reasoning pathetic. They argue, exchanging cruel words. The captain steps in sharply, reminding them that the ones sparring are the young masters, not them, and proposes a vote. Every hand rises for the giant beast, leaving Pagoda fuming and believing that they all are Samion's dogs. With the majority decided, Alberto announces that they will prepare the illusionary giant beast, Paractus, even though he also knows very well that they are all dogs of Samion. Day 1 of the friendly exchange meeting begins. Headmaster Herka sits at her desk writing documents related to the guest list for the Samions. Pagoda stands nearby, levitating stacks of books with magic and guiding her on what belongs where. Herka looks exhausted, complaining about the insane workload and regretting her decision to become headmaster of the fortress. Pagoda tries to motivate her and continues helping. She then asks about the preparations for the first stage, expecting Pagoda to be the one handling the illusion. Pagoda sighs heavily, asking her not to bring it up. He mentions that the mages who are not from the fortress, including the mage captain, were bought out by the Samions. Herka now understands why he has been in such a bad mood. Pagoda continues, explaining that because the 6th magic tower is built on their territory, they have been able to influence the Mage Association without restraint. Herka stretches her arms, calling them archdemons, but Pagoda simply says that it will be fine if Vincent wins the remaining stages. Herka is surprised, asking if he truly believes Vincent will win. He quickly tries to cover it, saying it is simply more beneficial for them if Adenka wins. She reminds him he once said the probability of the young master winning was less than 10%. She wraps an arm around his neck jokingly, teasing him that he seems infatuated with Vincent, even offering sponsorship, and wonders if he is trying to make her sister jealous. Pagoda stiffens, confused, asking who her sister is. He then abruptly excuses himself, telling her to finish the work rather than fool around since the exchange begins tomorrow. He slams the door as he leaves. Meanwhile, Herka watches silently, admitting under her breath that he was being serious. The day arrives, and Vincent and the others enter the arena. The audience whispers that the Adenka were already disadvantaged, and now things appear even worse. Our hero, however, is focused entirely on Kagon, whose behavior mirrors Kajin so perfectly it unsettles him. A loud cheer erupts as Kagon appears, greeting the Crimson Fortress with effortless charm. He steps forward and reaches out for a handshake. The moment their hands meet, the audience captures the scene eagerly. Kagon introduces himself brightly, and Vincent introduces himself in return. The opponent smiles warmly, saying he feels good making new friends of the same age. Our hero agrees outwardly, though inside he feels only discomfort, because nothing about Kagon outwardly seems wrong, yet his smile feels unbearably unpleasant. Just then, Kagon wishes that Vincent proves himself with his strength, calling him friend. Herka and Pagoda exchange looks. He wants Vincent to prove himself, clearly assuming the Adenka are beneath them. While our hero responds that he also hopes Kagan proves his talent, Herka and Pagoda flinch, unsure if Vincent truly thinks that he can win. The crowd erupts, cheering the opening of the event. On stage, Headmaster Herka steps forward holding a crystal, declaring the official commencement of the friendly exchange meeting. The first stage is the treasure hunt. The two competitors will enter an enchanted space and retrieve a chest identical to the one she holds. Inside the space, they will face a monster created through sorcery. The giant illusionary beast Fracture will guard the treasure. Spectators murmur in shock. Clearly, this year's difficulty is brutal. Another announcement echoes. Each participant may choose 2 rank 9 candidates to accompany them. Since the Adenka lost in the previous year, they will select first. Herka bows slightly, expecting Vincent to choose Selbira. But before she can say anything, Vincent calmly announces 2 names, Sizin and Harmon. The crowd erupts in confusion. The rank boards light up, confirming that both have the lowest grades among rank 9s. Sizin and Harmon tremble where they stand, terrified. The crowd bursts into laughter, mocking the choice. People shout that they already look weak and useless, while others speculate that maybe there is something special about them if Vincent selected them. Headmaster Herka bows her head, confirming Vincent's decision and asking if he is truly certain. She warns him that she hopes he isn't using them as an excuse for failure, saying she would be disappointed if that were the case. Vincent calmly refuses the idea. The first reason he chose Sizin and Harmon is because he refuses to give any excuse to young Master Kagan. The second reason is that although the two are distant relatives, they still carry the blood of the Adenka family. In the past, he had spoken with Selbira about this. They may come from collateral branches, but to defeat the Samians, it is fitting to fight with the blood of Patriarch Arslan. Selbira is hurt, since she expected him to choose her first. Vincent stands, respecting her dedication and the battle they endured alongside Malone, encouraging her to do her best in the exchange meeting as well. When she asks what that means if she is not part of his team, Vincent explains simply that this is to provoke Kagan. Kagan must turn that provocation into pride and strike him down without mercy. In that situation, he will be perfect. On the opposite side, Kagan selects his representative and vice representative, declaring in front of everyone that he will teach Vincent the result of arrogance. Our boy is aware that the stage has already been prepared for the Samians, and wonders what exactly Kagan intends to show. Pagoda watches from the audience and shows confident trust in our boy. He then steps toward the 6th Tower mages, who are already pale, questioning why Vincent gave up the representative. Pagoda comments sharply that he must be eager to start the first stage. The mages activate glowing magic circles and the match begins. Selbira, standing behind Kagan's team, still looks upset. Soon after, inside the portal, Sizin is already trembling. He pulls out a luminous crystal, asking if they should use it, and they activate it, illuminating the dark cavern. On the other side, Selbira asks Kagan if he needs light, but he replies casually that it isn't necessary, and asks the two behind him to stay back. The words sting Selbira. He is clearly telling them not to interfere, assuming he will handle everything alone. Back in the arena, both groups' footage is projected for the crowd. People complain that nothing is happening and call it boring since no giants have appeared yet. Pagoda and Herka stand watching, noting that Vincent clearly does not see his teammates as sacrifices. Inside the cave, Harmon doubts whether they can really help Vincent. Our hero smiles, reminding them they are capable martial artists who overcame their own fears. At that moment, a blinding red light erupts, blasting them backward. As the smoke clears, a massive Fracture emerges, smashing its weapon down and shaking the ground. Sizin and Harmon panic, overwhelmed by its size and questioning if anything will go according to plan. They look around and realize Vincent is nowhere to be seen, assuming he was crushed. But his voice cuts through the dust as he leaps from above, slicing down with full force. The giant collapses in a thunderous fall. Vincent orders them to follow the plan. Sizin and Harmon pull out large drums, striking them loudly while sprinting around the fallen giant. With terrible eyesight, the creature reacts instinctively to the sound, following them. They shout for Vincent to find the chest. He watches them and calls them brave, then turns deeper into the cavern. In the arena, Herka and Pagoda stare in shock, thinking that what our hero is doing is called a treasure hunt, but demonstrating martial ability is the core purpose. The 6th Tower mage laughs, mocking Vincent for misunderstanding the true objective. Meanwhile, back inside the cave, Vincent reaches the treasure chest at last, but the ground shakes violently. A second Fracture erupts, slamming him against the rock wall. The realization strikes. There was more than one. The giant charges again, attempting to crush Vincent, but he narrowly escapes. For the plan to work, he must save at least one strike for the absolute sword slash. Having 2 giants instead of 1 makes the situation much more difficult. The giant lunges from the side, trying to snatch him mid-air. Vincent realizes that this one is faster than the first and is reacting to the speed of Frostwalk. Meanwhile, Pagoda watches in disbelief, shouting in outrage, unable to understand how another monster could be there. Standing behind him, the 6th Tower mage casually calls it a mistake. Furious, Pagoda grabs him by the collar, demanding to know why they are playing such dirty tricks. Headmaster Herka intervenes just in time, warning him to stop before they create chaos in front of the entire audience. She understands his anger, but causing a scene will accomplish nothing. The Sixth Tower Mage smirks, claiming Herka is calm unlike the rumors. Herka's expression turns cold as she orders him to stay behind once the event is over. Meanwhile, Kagan effortlessly dismantles his opponent. As the giant collapses, he stands there in disappointment, complaining that he was expecting more from the monsters called a giant. Just then, another giant charges from behind, forcing Selbira to warn him. Kagan responds instantly, slicing its hand into pieces. He dashes up the arm and cuts through its face, dropping it in an instant. Selbira watches silently, admitting to herself that Kagan is undeniably strong. Even if anyone else had been on his team, the result would have remained unchanged. While Kagan taunts the fallen giant, asking it to stand again so he can demonstrate more techniques. On the other side, Vincent's team is falling apart under pressure. Our hero struggles while Julian trembles, convinced the plan has failed. Vincent calms him, insisting they must form a new plan. Julian suggests using the absolute sword slash, hurting both giants together and cutting them at once. Vincent rejects it at first, knowing the giants are too large, and he'd lose sight of the second target mid-strike. But then realization strikes. He must defeat both giants with a single slash, and to do that, he needs a clear focal target. That thought leads him to Julian. Elsewhere, their other two teammates are cornered by the second giant, trapped with nowhere to escape, terrified and calling out for Vincent. Just when they believe they are crushed, our hero shows up with the treasure chest in hand. He shouts that the plan has changed, and it will arrive soon. The two teammates stare in disbelief as another giant emerges in front of them. Both giants roar and begin sprinting directly toward his group. Vincent calls out to Julian, ordering him to execute the plan exactly as instructed. He cries, all freaked out, not willing to offer himself as the target. As the monsters close in, our hero's fear becomes real. He still cannot clearly see the path needed for the absolute sword slash to strike both giants at once. Their massive bodies are making it hard. If he cannot trace the sword path, then he must find something that cuts across both giants instead. In that moment of focus, he feels the other half of his soul awaken, Julian's presence. Meanwhile, Julian stands directly behind the two giants, forming the perfect alignment for the sword path. But Julian is terrified, unsure if he will survive being positioned so close. As the giants raise their hands to crush them, our hero launches forward and unleashes the absolute sword slash. The blade tears through both giants in a single brilliant strike. The attack continues past them, causing Julian, still standing behind them, to scream for help. Up in the audience, the mage captain and the Sixth Tower Mage stare in shock, unable to understand how he managed to defeat two giants with a single strike. Even the headmaster is stunned, while Pagoda smirks proudly, explaining that this is the lethal technique of Vincent, the absolute sword slash. Julian rushes over, panicking and yelling because he thought he would die, and is horrified to learn that our hero was not certain the attack would work. Our hero calmly admits that even with the absolute sword slash, defeating a god would be impossible. Then, realization strikes. Vincent had only thought those words internally, so how did Julian hear them? That shock is interrupted as the other two teammates look around, confused, wondering who he is speaking to since Julian is invisible to everyone except our hero. Brushing it off, he tells them to prepare to leave. The last thing left to cut down using absolute sword slash is the entire space itself, the magical arena forming the battlefield. He raises his sword again and with one slash destroys the whole structure of magic. They appear at the stage as the Sixth Tower Mage demands that someone check the spell, unable to believe that the entire dungeon was shattered. Pagoda steps forward and says there is no point trying to repair it, because Vincent's sword can cut through magic. Even though he himself is secretly stunned, he admits silently that he never expected Vincent to destroy the entire dungeon, impressed by the creativity of his solution. The mage captain shouts angrily, insisting he should be disqualified for destroying the examination stage, but the headmaster interrupts, reminding everyone that no rules forbid destroying the stage itself, since no one has ever attempted it before. She also notes that as a member of the Neutral Mage Association, the captain seems surprisingly emotional, as if it were her personal loss. Meanwhile, the teammates hand over the chest and ask if Vincent has won. Before they can finish, the Sixth Tower Mage snaps that the first stage merely displays strength, and that the test is not over. It does not matter who finishes first. He declares that young Master Kagan is still performing, and if he continues his martial arts display, the victory will go to the Samians. Hearing this, our hero approaches and says that based on that rule, Kagan will be finishing his stage very soon. The mage suddenly panics at the implication, prompting Pagoda to explain that the dragon Kagan entered was inside the assembly element used to form the space. As they said, because equal environments must be provided to both participants, the assembly element was split into two identical replicated dungeons. Now that Vincent has already destroyed his replica, the mana sustaining it has nowhere to go. Just like splitting water into two channels and blocking one, all the flow will now overflow into the other. Meanwhile, standing in front of the giant, Kagan starts to notice its increased power. As the mana floods into the remaining space, realization hits Kagon. The giant has grown stronger. Despite this, he assumes that its intelligence must remain unchanged. When the beast charges, certain of himself, he declares that with such a simple trick, the giant will simply lose its hand. He swings his sword, slashing toward the arm, only to find the flesh completely unscathed. Shocked, he narrowly dodges the next strike, thinking something must have changed outside the dungeon. A dying monster should not suddenly gain such strength. Clinging to the ground, he braces himself as the giant rushes forward to crush him again. At that moment, Selbira steps in, using the same technique Vincian's teammates had used earlier to redirect the beast's attention. She instructs her partner to locate the chest while she distracts the monster with sound. As she lures the giant away, she comments bitterly that Kagon is lucky. If Vincian had not ordered her to give everything she had, she would never have bothered saving someone as arrogant as him. Suddenly, a violent eruption tears through the field, throwing everyone backward. When the dust settles, Kagan sees the first giant, the one that should have been dead. Both giants move together and prepare to strike Selbira, cornering her. Just in time, Kagan rises to his feet, furious that they dare interrupt his performance. With explosive power, he slashes through them, then releases his technique, Bloody Full Moon. Surging forward with overwhelming force, he cuts both giants down with a single devastating strike. Selbira watches in absolute disbelief. She realizes then that Kagon had been extraordinary from the beginning. He had intentionally left the giant alive, saving the stamina to continue his performance. Although still angry at Selbira for disrupting his original plan, he forces himself to stay calm. He completed the stage, secured the chest, and left a strong impression. Regardless of the results, he believes his performance must be better than Vincian's. Stepping out of the portal, Kagan freezes upon seeing our hero already standing there. Vincian casually remarks that Kagan is late, and from the expression on his face, our protagonist assumes he must have enjoyed the gift. Kagan demands to know what he means. Vincian explains that he has a friend skilled in sorcery, and with their help, he caused the mana inside Kagon's dungeon to overflow. The realization strikes Kagon hard. It was our boy's plan all along to overload the giants. The shock pushes him to wonder whether Vincian had been playing him from the very start. But instead of anger, he laughs, accepting defeat. He admits he judged our hero too carelessly. His expression darkens as he promises that things will be different from now on, since he now sees Vincian as a true friend. Our protagonist welcomes it confidently. Meanwhile, the headmaster watches, amused, wondering if they think they can decide the victor on their own. Why do they believe judges even exist? The announcement declares Vincian the winner, and the next stage will take place in 3 days. Later, Kagon approaches Selbira to thank her, stating that without her, he would have looked like a fool. He extends his hand, but she hesitates, sensing something wrong. Kagan remarks that her hand feels heavy, and only then does she lightly shake it. He turns to leave while Selbira quietly wonders if he truly came to thank her at all. As he walks away, Kagan smiles strangely and whispers a silent farewell to her. At the Crimson Fortress, Sari practices her magic when Wilson calls out to her. He arrives carrying a giant bag filled with food and clean clothes. She asks about the results of the friendly exchange meeting, and Wilson excitedly informs her that Vincian has won, with his opponent, Kagon, admitting defeat willingly. Relief washes over her as Wilson wonders aloud if training there is difficult. Sari admits it is, but explains that because she is at the fortress, she cannot fully concentrate, constantly distracted by the young master. She further explains that the dean advised her to train at the fortress, as it is easier to communicate with the spirit of the snowy mountains there. Wilson recalls her saying she was suited to become a spirit mage, and she confirms it, explaining that she needs to find a spirit to form a contract with soon. At her current level, she can only manage one, though she loves many. A mysterious voice suddenly interrupts. At first, Sari thinks Wilson spoke, but he denies it. The voice echoes again, prompting her to ask who is there. Meanwhile, in another part of the fortress, Selbira and the others celebrate Vincian's victory in the first stage by drinking and cheering. Our hero remarks that he is only ahead by 1 point, questioning whether such loud celebration is necessary. Selbira dismisses his concern, claiming it is monumental in Ascenda's history, though she admits she should not speak that way since she supported Kagon. Vincian rejects that idea, insisting she was the crucial factor in his victory. When asked why, he explains that Selbira played a significant role in Kagon's performance. He and Kagon may be equals in martial arts, but her support made Kagon stronger. Even if Kagon had refused to acknowledge the result, once evolution was complete, the odds would have shifted in Vincian's favor. Selbira is stunned, realizing our boy had planned much further ahead. She promises to help him again if the opportunity arises, since she is the candidate representative. Vincian expresses trust in her, but as their hands touch, he senses something. He sees the Samian chain seal burned into her hand, and immediately asks when and how it appeared, questioning whether she had physical contact with Samians. Selbira nervously admits she shook hands with Kagon when he thanked her for helping him. The realization hits, and our protagonist curses Kagon under his breath. Julian asks about the symbol, and Vincent explains that it is the chain seal, more specifically a curse that gradually suffocates a victim's mana and leads to a slow death. Our hero holds Selbira's hand tightly while the others stare at them oddly. Julian asks if the curse can be undone, prompting him to explain that first, they must identify what type of seal it is, as each requires a different release method. He then announces that training will begin at dawn every day. Selbira blushes nervously but agrees. At dawn, Vincent stands in the forest analyzing the seal. If Kagon placed it so boldly, he must be confident no one will discover it. Since the existence of the chain seal has been forgotten, just like the absolute sword slash and magic body, no one recognizes it. Julian advises keeping the matter secret while Vincent rages inside, refusing to forgive Kagon for using black magic on someone unrelated to the match. Just then, Selbira arrives in a different, beautiful outfit, her hair down as she shyly asks how she looks. Julian stares in awe while Vincent fumbles awkwardly, asking why she dressed up like that for training. Julian mutters that she clearly likes him, wondering if our boy was single for too long in his past life. Vincent fires back, asking why he's provoking him. He privately thinks she is too young. He was 29 5 years ago, and she is 14. The gap is too large to consider her feelings seriously. Selbira snaps back to focus, reminding him they are here to train. They stand in silence, meditating, as Vincent instructs her to constantly observe the mana flow and notify him of anything unusual. She asks if she should feel something during meditation. Our protagonist simply tells her to continue and silently studies the disrupted mana flow. If she cannot sense it, then martial arts must have lost much more than imagined since the era of true theory. Julian asks if Vincent can undo the seal as our hero realizes he cannot. It is far stronger than expected. When he finally stops trying, Julian panics, asking what they will do now. Vincent explains that to undo a chain seal, an offering must be retrieved, typically a living heart from an animal, a spirit, or a human. Kagan likely hid the offering somewhere on the snowy mountains. If they find it and free it, the seal will collapse. If not, Selbira will die in 3 days. Hearing that only 3 days remain, Julian explains that it may sound heartless, but the friendly exchange meeting must take priority. In 3 days, the second stage will begin, and they cannot afford to neglect preparation. Vincent silently hopes Julian understands what truly matters, believing those who chase only their own goals will eventually lose the people beside them. If our protagonist had still possessed the comrades lost to Samion, he would not have spent the rest of his life in prison. Selbira interrupts, asking if Vincent wishes to continue, since she is already exhausted. Our hero agrees to finish for the day, and they walk through the forest. As they move along, Julian asks how our boy knows so much about curses and briefly wonders if he was a dark mage. Vincent reveals that he has experienced something similar before, during his imprisonment, when his mana was sealed. He recalls that the procedure used the heart of a parishioner serving a death penalty at the time. Julian realizes how terrible Vincent's past must have been as our boy asks him not to bring it up again. When Julian questions what crime could have put him in prison for 10 years, our protagonist mutters that it was the battle with Kajin. At that moment, Selbira, who had been following them, suddenly collapses. They rush her to the treatment room. The healer explains that she has been stabilized for now and advises them to let her rest, but admits he has never seen symptoms like these before. There is little more they can do in the fortress. It would be best to send her to Gaia Temple in the capital. Vincent stands helplessly, wondering if the priest there could undo the chain seal, a technique erased from history. The progression is too quick, and he doubts Selbira will survive the journey. Shevin is instructed to take care of her, while Vincent stands at the window in silence. When questioned about his intentions, our hero leaps out the window. There is only one way, to find the sacrifice used for the chain seal somewhere in the vast snowy mountains. He refuses to lose another person to Samion's dirty tricks. Meanwhile, Sari is already deep within the forest, hearing a distant voice crying for help. It sounds like a spirit. She then sees Vincent arriving as he questions what she is doing there. They walk together as he tells her about the sacrifice bound to the curse. The spirit is sealed somewhere in the snowy mountain. When Sari asks what is typically used for the sacrifice, Vincent explains that it must be something small, something easy to hide, such as a small creature or a spirit. Siri believes she may be able to help. While Selbira lies unconscious, our protagonist and Siri continue climbing through the cold mountain wind. The voice becomes clearer between a canyon, and they rush forward. She shouts that she is here to help, while Vincent silently follows, trusting her but fully aware that Selbira does not have much time left. He prepares himself, declaring that if the spirit is not found soon, he will destroy the entire region to break the seal. Just then, Siri discovers the chained spirit of a small animal. The pattern is identical to the one on Selbira. Siri begins to cry, asking if there is any way to save it. Vincent explains that once something becomes the sacrifice of a chain seal, there is little hope. The merciful choice would be to let it pass peacefully. Siri refuses to accept that. She activates her spell, summoning a magic circle and forms a spirit contract, overriding the chain seal with higher priority. The curse breaks, the chains shatter, and the spirit is freed. Vincent thanks her for performing something extraordinary. Suddenly, green lightning strikes toward them. Vincent reacts instantly, blocking the attack as he demands to know who is responsible. Kagon appears from within the storm, accusing our hero of interfering with Samyeon's traditional ceremony. He demands a worthy explanation. As Vincent's rage ignites, he calls out Kagon's name. Kagon stands, fully aware of what has just transpired. Vincent has interrupted the traditional Samyeon ceremony, a sacred ritual, and in doing so, has sparked a massive diplomatic dispute with the Samyeons. Kagon commands him to release the small spirit and walk away, promising to cover the incident for him. Our hero refuses, demanding how Kagon can call it a tradition when it was merely an attempt to kill Selbira. The realization hits Kagon that Vincent understands the truth. He smiles faintly, telling our boy that he should already know there exists a certain class into which both were born. There are people destined to carry the burden of fate, and others who are not. They stand apart from the rest, and anyone who dares to cross that line must be punished. Kagon urges Vincent to understand, believing they are the same, and calls it their rightful order. In an instant, our protagonist closes the distance and presses his sword to Kagon's throat. He declares that nothing has changed in 500 years. Kagon is momentarily confused, but Vincent firmly states that the so-called right Kagon defends is nothing but wrong to him. Kagon's smile widens, and he praises our hero's eyes, raising his own sword to Vincent's neck. He declares that they will never be friends, and that everything will be judged properly at the friendly exchange meeting. Meanwhile, in the fortress, the chain seal on Selbira's hand dissolves. She awakens, confused, questioning her presence there. Moments later, Vincent bursts into the room, calling for Minister Shevin and asking about Selbira's condition. Shevin informs him that she has just regained consciousness. Our hero checks her hand, confirming that the chain seal has truly vanished. Shevin asks whether Vincent intends to prepare, since only 2 days remain before the second stage begins. Our boy smiles, admitting that he does. He cannot afford to lose to Kagon, but deep inside, he reflects on what awaits in the second stage. They will face a real monster, the subjugation battle. Far away, in the main castle of Adenka, the fourth great elder, Iagol Adenka, studies the document reporting Vincent's achievements. Before him sits the fourth greatest elder, Fidenel Adenka, who confirms that Vincent claimed victory even after the Samyeons displayed seditious behavior. He overcame everything. They begin discussing whether the sixth tower was pressured or whether our protagonist has matured. But the elder Delbek Adenka slams the table in frustration. He reminds them that the elders have held authority over Adenka for 500 years, except for the last 25 under Patriarch Khan Adenka. Since youth, Khan has despised the power of the elders and has been slowly increasing the strength of the Patriarch's position. Fidenel argues that this is why they support the first son and second daughter as successors. The first son, Carmen, is consumed with ambition, while the second daughter, Dea, cares only for martial arts. They intend to elevate both to patriarchal power and rule Adenka through them as puppets. Hearing this, Delbek demands they consider what will happen if Vincent wins against the Samyeons. The seventh son, especially the child of the troublesome woman Sarvana, has no family influence binding him. If our hero prevails, the elders lose all control. And recently Khan himself engraved Vincent's name on the sword, granting him the Crimson Lotus, the same blade Khan carried in his youth. Delbek claims that Khan is using our protagonist to point his sword directly at the elders. Silence spreads across the hall as he declares that they cannot allow Vincent to achieve any more accomplishments. When the others ask what he intends, Elder Tilavin suggests sending a letter to the Samyeons. Its contents will declare that Adenka will overlook the unlawful actions of the Samyeons in the first stage, but the second stage must proceed entirely under the authority of Adenka. 2 days later, the second stage of the friendly exchange meeting finally begins. Headmaster Herka steps forward and announces that the second stage is the subjugation battle, and there is only one rule: destroy the monster before you in the shortest time possible. Their opponent in this round is the Lizard Man, a monster infamous for crafting long spears from animal bones and wielding devastating power. Kagon is the first to step into the arena. The Lizard Man roars, slamming its crafted weapon into the ground as smoke erupts across the battlefield. But before the dust settles, Kagon has already vanished from sight. Pagoda watches with widened eyes, unable to track his speed. Above them, Kagon descends like a streak of lightning and slices through the monster cleanly. Pagoda announces the result, 14.86 seconds. Kagon has established a new record, surpassing Lady Dea's 22nd achievement. The entire stadium erupts with praise for Kagon and the Samyeons. At that moment, Kagon turns his gaze toward Vincent, silently declaring that this is what happens when he gets serious, and that there will be no disgraceful repeat of the first stage. The next thing his sword will cut, he implies, is Vincent. Soon after, as they enter the stage, Julian anxiously asks how they could possibly beat that record, but our hero steps forward confidently, believing that when it comes to speed, they simply will not lose. He approaches the cage holding the monster, immediately noticing something is off. This lizardman's eyes are bloodshot and wild. Meanwhile, back in Adenka Castle, Fidenel questions Tilavan's actions as they drink tea. She presses for the truth, and Tilavan admits that he interfered. He explains that he did nothing to weaken the monster. No drugs, no magic. He captured a lizard man equivalent to the one our boy will face, but he starved it for 2 days. An average martial artist might not notice, but a starving monster becomes so vicious that defeating it in seconds becomes nearly impossible. Back in the arena, Vincent already understands the situation from the frenzied hunger in the creature's eyes. Before he can think further, the cage bursts open and the monster charges with terrifying speed. Our protagonist considers dodging, but he knows that if he steps back even once, he will never break Kagon's record. So instead, he braces his stance, shocking the headmaster and even Pagoda. The monster's spear impales his shoulder, piercing clean through. Gasps ripple through the arena. Headmaster Herka's expression twists as blood pours down our hero's arm. Meanwhile, Vincent knows that if the monster has already driven the weapon this deep, he no longer needs to control the lightning flow. Calling upon the blessing of the lightning giant, a surge of lightning erupts around him, engulfing the monster. The creature screams in agony, struck by overwhelming thunderous force. Lightning consumes the stage as Pagoda cries out for priests from the fortress, but Headmaster Herka orders him to check the record first. She remembers Vincent saying that one must never enter battle with the intention to lose. For a moment, she wonders if anyone would go to such extreme lengths, and if he is possessed by a spirit that once died fighting the Samians. Back in the fight, our protagonist remains standing, the spear still lodged through his shoulder. The monster is already dead. Pagoda reveals the time, 5.39 seconds. The final announcement echoes, confirming Vincent's victory. In no time, the priests rush forward and begin the healing. They decide to pull the spear out first, with Chiven instructing them to work on his signal. As soon as the weapon is removed, everyone starts healing simultaneously. Meanwhile, standing above, Kagon can't believe a boy would choose such a barbaric method. During the healing, our boy smiles at Kagon, unsettling him completely. The next announcement ends the second stage, instructing everyone to exit immediately so the patient can be transferred. Elsewhere, inside a cart, a figure thinks about Vincent, wondering if he is truly the son of Sarvana, and admits to being eager to meet him. Back at the fortress, Chiven cries, saying he applied to the Crimson Fortress because he thought it would be an easy position. He confesses it really was, until Vincent enrolled. Our hero is left speechless, but he thanks Chiven for the healing, since it has worked properly, and his shoulder feels completely fine, almost like a miracle. However, Chiven refuses the praise, showing a wooden token and explaining he isn't the owner of it. It's impossible for him to provide our protagonist with that level of treatment. Our boy is confused, so Chiven clarifies, what Vincent experienced was close to a miracle. Second-class priest treatments are merciless, and the possessor of that token receives the treatment as if they were its owner. But since Chiven is a 5th class, his healing is equal to simply sewing and gluing the wound together. In other words, our boy's heart is not completely healed yet. If he overdoes it before fully recovering, he may lose the ability to use mana forever. Before they speak further, the headmaster enters and tells Vincent to go and eat. When he asks what she means by that, she explains that the patriarch and matriarch of Adenka and Samion have arrived. The Samions have invited Vincent and Khan to dinner. As the patriarch and our hero walk together, Vincent wonders what the Samions are plotting by inviting them. The figure in the cart turns out to be the matriarch of Samion, Valkia Samion. She greets our protagonist and his father, and soon all are seated at the dining table. The matriarch urges him to eat well, pointing out these are special Samion dishes. Vincent agrees, thanking her while he quietly observes. He thinks that, like his father, her presence alone embodies Samion as one of the continent's rulers. Suddenly, she points her knife at Khan, teasing that he has gotten pretty as he ages and calling him a cutie. At that moment, Vincent senses something powerful, stands, and grips his sword. Valkia watches, curious whether he actually detected the mana she emitted in secrecy. Meanwhile, our boy sweats, admitting to himself that she is far too strong. The murderous intent, diluted into deathly essence, is mana sharp enough to cut. She truly is a martial artist. She simply praises his sensitivity, while Vincent silently imagines a duel with someone like her as he thanks her. When Patriarch notices and questions the reaction, Vincent admits the Samions are strong, and that's why he smiled. When asked if he sensed it, he confirms. Patriarch then attempts the same toward Kagon, but Kagon senses nothing and awkwardly asks if something is wrong. Patriarch wipes his face, calling Kagan polite for not drawing a sword at the table. Valkia tells Kagan not to worry and to eat well. Observing all this, Vincent asks Julian, and he confirms that the two are having a chi battle over whose son is superior, since they are both rulers of the continent. Later that night, Valkia stands on the roof when the Patriarch approaches. She comments that his good-for-nothing son has matured quite nicely. Patriarch remarks that her prodigy is underwhelming, and she laughs, admitting he got her there. Then she says someone is up to no good, daring to interfere with the friendly exchange meeting while both matriarchs and patriarchs watch. When Khan asks if she means the elders of Samion, Valkia reveals he is only half correct. She believes the first stage was orchestrated by the Samyeon elders, but the second stage is the work of Khan's elders. The 4 great elders of Ascenda are involved, and their true target is Vincian. Though their opinions differ, they want to eliminate a variable like our hero as soon as possible. She then asks what Khan thinks, if the son who takes after Sarvana will win the 3rd stage. After a moment of silence, Khan replies with conviction that Ascendars will absolutely surpass the Samyeons. Valkia questions if Khan is referring to that will, and points out that if it hasn't been accomplished in the last 500 years, isn't it time he gave up? She then challenges him on the interference of the elders, asking how he plans to stop them. Khan's expression darkens as he replies that no one remains alive on the continent after cheating in front of his eyes, and nothing will prevent Vincian's victory in the 3rd stage. Valkia looks at him awkwardly, remarking that he speaks as if certain Vincian will be victorious against Kagan, unless there are unexpected events. Khan simply responds that his son has promised to return victorious. The day of the 3rd stage arrives. The announcer declares that Adenka winning both the 1st and 2nd stages is unbelievable, but the real battle is the 3rd stage, where actual sparring will take place. The Samyeons will try to win at all costs, since their pride has been wounded. The question rises, will the Adenkas gain another victory after Lady Dea? The audience watches as the patriarch and matriarch Valkia sit together. On stage, the headmaster announces that the final stage of the friendly exchange meeting, the long-awaited duel, is about to begin, as our hero Vincian and Kagan stand facing each other. Julian reminds Vincian of his current condition, while our boy says he's fully aware. His damaged heart allows him only one use of the absolute sword slash. He needs to finish the match with that single strike. He decides to start with the lightning giant to test Kagan. As Vincian slashes, intense lightning energy roars toward Kagan, who recognizes it instantly as the lightning giant. With little effort, Kagan reflects the lightning aside, leaving Vincian in disbelief. Kagan questions if that was just a test and declares he will have to burn Vincian to ashes to be satisfied. Our protagonist sees the burning mana of a dark crimson shade and cannot forget the Samyeon's hidden mana technique, the very one that caused his final loss in a past life. The mana uses life force to burn brightly, Crimson Empire's might. Seeing Vincian's expression, Kagan realizes he understands everything. The opponent charges forward, wondering if our boy will be able to block. While Vincian focuses as Kagan rushes in, he decides to use body strengthening and Crimson Lotus to defend, but ends up getting hurt due to Kagan's speed. He thinks that Crimson Emperor's might isn't supposed to have such overwhelming power, and silently admits that Kagan's accomplishment has already surpassed young Kajin's abilities. In no time, the enemy charges again, but this time Vincian blocks. As they clash, Kagan asks where that confident, cocky expression from the 1st and 2nd stages has gone, and why he isn't acting as if he can defeat him now. Blood drips from Kagan's mouth as he declares he will never let Vincian wield another sword again. Their blades collide, causing an intense explosion as Khan and Valkia watch. The battlefield shakes while our hero thinks that Crimson Empire's might is weak in extended battles, but if he times it right, he can turn things around. Through the smoke, Kagan emerges, declaring he won't give our boy any openings. He uses his Scareat Song Metal technique, New Moon Flash, and rushes forward with immense force. The ground splits apart and smoke fills the arena. Kagan laughs, convinced Vincian has been crushed, claiming this is the price of challenging the Samyeons. Yet our protagonist stands unharmed, asking if that is all Kagan has, then raises his sword and uses Amalun's swordsmanship, creating a swift, massive sword defense. 500 years ago, Kajin disarms his opponent and beats him badly, dismissing it all as boring. He sneers that even with both arms, the man is still a loser, worse than a one-armed swordsman, and tells him to give up swordsmanship while he still can. Our hero, who was Davin at that time, sits behind the scene, witnessing everything. Just then, a figure approaches from behind, questioning why Kajin continues to beat his opponents, even after victory is already certain. Our boy turns back, recognizing the figure as a Miluan. It's the martial artist studying under the Samyeons, named Falcon Emelian. Our protagonist met him at the Samyeon battleground, where both of them had been used as puppets to showcase Kajin's abilities. Falcon asks if he meant what he said last time about defeating Kajin, someone whose very existence seems like a cheat. Our hero calls it a foolish dream, but Falcon refuses to agree, believing that he is the only one who could truly challenge Kajin. Falcon Amalun is an exceptional martial artist, a loyal friend who never disgraces Davin's dream and always cheers him on. However, he becomes too strong, too quickly, and ends up as a pawn of the Samyeons when he reaches that level of power. Falling into a trap set by the Samyeon elders, he dies, but leaves his swordsmanship to our boy, a style completely opposite to the Samyeon techniques, one that demands very little mana, insisting that the stage is not over as his mana surges. He declares that Vincian isn't the only one with hidden tricks and activates the sword trait, Keshak's Blessing, Soul Blade. The Patriarch immediately recognizes the trait, while the Matriarch wonders when Kagan acquired such an ability. The sword, bearing God Keshak's Blessing, bestows incredible swordsmanship to those who wield it. When a user reaches its peak, another trait emerges, transforming the sword into a new element of imagery. Kagan now stands at the peak of his 4-star boundary. Our hero stares wide-eyed at the trait, realizing that Kagan has already spent most of his strength on the Crimson Emperor's might, and it will be dangerously taxing to use a greater power so forcefully. Meanwhile, Kagan, surrounded by swirling energy and eyes glowing blue, thanks Vinchin for worrying about him as he charges forward. The realization hits our protagonist that Kagan still has so much strength left. Their weapons flash, and the resulting air pressure sweeps across the arena, causing the audience to struggle to keep their eyes fixed on the stage. As Vinchin's protection begins to break, Kagan taunts him for risking his life in the second stage just for a fleeting smirk. Now, willing to risk everything, even if his body breaks down from K-shock, he intends to defeat Vinchin at any cost. While our hero is now fully convinced his opponent is just like Kajin, he still refuses to be defeated, even if it means risking his life. Our boy manages to push Kagan back slightly, but Kagan charges again. Their weapons clash and the defense finally shatters. Kagan laughs, but receives a powerful punch from our protagonist. Though Kagan blocks it, he is still driven backward. Both have reached their physical limits, and Vinchin is determined to settle it all with this final blow. Kagan unleashes his own technique, while our boy calls forth the absolute sword slash. Surrounded by energy, they strike. Vinchin unleashes the absolute sword flash, amplified by the lightning giant, certain it will cut through and explode. That's exactly what happens. As smoke and energy scatter, Kagan's vision fades. At that moment, our protagonist rushes forward, and Kagan realizes Vinchin is using his final move as a smokescreen. Our boy moves in silence, calling out Kagan's name as he flashes past. The announcement comes, Kagan has been incapacitated and our hero has won the match. The crowd erupts in praise and disbelief that Adenka has claimed victory, many wondering how long it has been since such a triumph. They shout his name as our boy stands alone, sword in hand, declaring that he has seized victory once again. Another announcement follows, stating that interviews will begin only after treatment. Meanwhile, in the Elder's room, one of the Adenka elders crushes the crystal that was reporting on the match, furious and at a loss for words. Elsewhere, Raelsa stands with Merlin, observing that Witchen has grown up well, and Merlin admits he has lost their bet. Out in the forest, two people walk together, discussing the match. Both are young masters. One is Revan, from the restored spearmanship family, a house that stands on equal footing with the Adenkas and Samion families. As a descendant of the Verticans, he questions whether he could ever win against them. The other figure, Serkon, assures him he is plenty strong. Serkon's thoughts drift to Vinchin, wishing to spar with him soon and announcing he has a good idea. He is certain Vinchin will be at the fortress every day, since our hero is a cadet, and resolves to enroll at the Crimson Fortress. Meanwhile, our boy opens his eyes and finds himself in a cave. He's certain he defeated Kagan and went to rest, but this place is not the fortress. He questions where he is, and suddenly, countless memories begin to surface. Realization dawns. He is within the world of his own memories. Just then, soldiers with red glowing eyes appear and attack, but Vinchin cuts through them. Yet the sensation is overwhelming, as if he is facing the evil spirit of the archdemon Davin. At that moment, Kajin appears. Our protagonist shouts his name, demanding to know what he's doing there. Kajin responds by shouting the name from his past life, Davin, and urges him to stay away, then charges forward with a punch. The mana radiating from Kajin's body suppresses our hero, and he realizes he can't move. Suddenly, a golden light forms as Arslan lands right in front of Vinchin to protect him. Confused, our boy watches as a giant red glowing figure emerges before them. Arslan explains that the figure is none other than the archdemon, the one responsible for all this chaos. He warns that time is short, as the archdemon has noticed Vinchin's presence, and our hero must recover quickly. Arslan shouts for him to surpass the Samions and face the truth he once left behind. With that, Arslan prepares to leave, declaring that everything now rests on Vinchin. He tries to stop him, but Arslan rushes toward the archdemon to attack. Suddenly, Vinchin wakes up on his bed at the fortress. Selbira and the others stand in front of him, worried and asking if he's all right. He repeats Arslan's words, to surpass the Samions and face the truth, the will of the Ascenda left by Arslan. Despite just surpassing the Samions, our boy realizes he still hasn't fully grasped the truth. He wonders if there is any reason he could be disqualified from fulfilling the will of the Adenka. Just then, his father enters the room. Every candidate sweats nervously as they greet the patriarch. He excuses them, assuring it won't take long, and then praises our boy for fulfilling his promise yet again. Patriarch, wanting to reward him, asks what he desires. It's in that moment Vinchin realizes he lacks the most basic fundamentals. He confesses he is not yet a true Adenka and needs a master to teach him the Adenka swordsmanship. His words prompt Patriarch to question whether Vinchin is aware the elders do not support him. Our protagonist confirms, but adds that, having defeated the Samions today, he's taken one step closer to fulfilling the Adenka will. If the elders still refuse to provide a master, he will not favor them. His father smiles, siding with him, and asks him to step forward. As they descend the stairs, they find Raelsa and Merlin waiting. He greets them both. Merlin realizes that long ago our boy promised to remember his name, and he truly does. Raelsa introduces Merlin as an 8-starred martial artist and the current holder of the Lightning Giant, recommending him to be Vincian's master. Merlin formally introduces himself as Merlin Falker, currently serving with the Yellow Dragon unit. Our boy reacts sharply to the surname, immediately recognizing it as Arslan's original name. Meanwhile, in the Samion's main castle, Kagon sits before his mother. She questions if he understands the reason for his defeat, pointing out that Vincian's attack caused him to lose his composure and become overly emotional. She notes that Kagon has now engraved a mark of shame on his arm. Kneeling, Kagan apologizes, but his mother says he will learn much from this loss, though if he repeats the mistake, she will personally cut through his muscles. He smiles and agrees, yet, as he lowers his head, he glares silently, acknowledging his anger over the loss, but reminds himself to stay calm in front of her. Beside him, dark energy manifests, whispering for one-armed Davin. Merlin asks if our hero has any problem with his last name. Vincian just smiles and asks if Merlin is someone with more authority than he realized. At that moment, Raelsa steps in, explaining that the Falkers are one of the older martial families who have served the Adenkas for generations, neither high nor low in status. Her explanation makes our boy wonder, if the Falkers changed their name to Ascenda, why do they still exist? Raelsa continues, adding that since Merlin has completed his registration at the fortress, he will be able to act as young master starting tomorrow. Standing beside her, Merlin adds that next time he sees Vincian, he'll have to treat him as a pupil and apologizes in advance for any rudeness. Patriarch, watching from behind, tells his son to devote himself further, and our hero agrees. Silently, the Patriarch thinks his boy must do so, as he cannot predict what the elders will attempt next. Meanwhile, all the elders gather again. One shouts about how our hero won the match, and now they have no way to interfere in his growth. They turn to Tilavan, demanding to know how he will take responsibility for the situation. Tilavan responds that nothing can be done now, and Vincian's growth has surpassed their expectations. The elders react sharply, and Fidenel points out that Tilavan promised to handle everything himself. Tilavan realizes the other elders are trying to use this chance to get rid of him, so he is forced to say that they will come up with a solution. Elsewhere, the 6th Tower Mage and the captain lie dead, killed by Matriarch Valkia. She questions Elder Holyman about why he hired these mages. Afraid, he confesses that he only wanted a complete victory for the Samians. She slams her foot on the wall, asking if they truly achieved victory, and admits she despises politics and trickery, believing it does not suit a martial artist. Silently, Valkia acknowledges that she could never match Khan head-to-head. She declares that the Samians were never associated with the Magic Tower or the Association, and that she will act for the honor of her family. However, she cannot oppose the great Samian elders directly, so she advises Holyman to stay quiet, remain at home, and start gardening. Elder Holyman agrees and leaves. Outside, he finds a crystal stone. When he touches it, Tilavan appears from the other side. Hearing the voice, Holyman panics and questions him about interference with the 2nd and 3rd stages. Tilavan replies that with Khan and Valkia present, they couldn't do anything, and Vincian also exceeded all their expectations. Holyman calls it an excuse, warning that if things continue, they will not be able to avoid the consequences for trying to stop our hero. He concludes that the elders themselves will become the problem, a nuisance in the eyes of others, and insists they need a plan to eliminate Vincian as soon as possible. Meanwhile, our boy lies on his bed when his eyes suddenly snap open. Someone is about to attack. He dodges just in time, demanding to know who it is. The figure is Merlin, testing Vincian's senses. Our hero recognizes him, and Merlin states that it is past midnight. From now on, he is to be regarded as Vincian's master. Merlin comments that while our boy's senses are sharp, his observational skills are lacking, asking why he didn't notice anything strange about the surroundings. Suddenly, they are transported elsewhere. Vincian is shocked as Merlin explains this is the magic dungeon used in the 1st stage, created by the Dean. Merlin tells him that if he passes the training, he will be allowed to leave. Until then, he is not permitted to exit, even by using the strange sword path. When Vincian asks what they are going to do, Merlin says they will tear apart his lightning giant and rebuild it. He explains that our boy's trait is all wrong. Merlin adds that Vincian does not yet understand its true strength, and this must be settled before learning Adenka swordsmanship. He then shows a special magical pendant, which will be destroyed if touched by anyone else's lightning energy. He instructs Vincian to destroy it, and until then, Adenka swordsmanship is off limits. Vincian rises, declaring that he must grow quickly and become a true Adenka to face the truth. Determined, he vows to destroy the pendant no matter what. Golden energy surrounds his sword as he rushes forward. Merlin blinks as our boy is thrown back by the overwhelming force. As he regains his footing, he sees 2 glowing eyes in the air. Merlin instructs him to look more closely, and reveals the true form of the lightning giant. Vincent and Julian are both stunned by the sheer size of the lightning giant. Julian remarks that it looks completely different from the one they had seen before. The giant figure slams its hand onto the ground, and the shockwave alone throws our boy back. Vincent wonders about the blue lightning, noticing it is nothing like his or Malone's. Meanwhile, Merlin approaches, apologizing and admitting he isn't the best fit for a master. He doesn't have the confidence to give perfect explanations or manage students systematically, so he's decided to use the teaching method he knows best. He declares that until Vincent understands the true lightning giant, the lightning will rage against our hero. Elsewhere, Wilson is washing clothes while the headmaster sits in the pagoda. Suddenly, a cart stops and a figure steps out. It's Tilavan. Meanwhile, in our boy's room, the small spirit he and Sari saved earlier appears. It has been about 1 week since Vincent began his training. The spirit returns to Siri, reporting everything and expressing concern for the young master. Siri shares the worry, noting that a week has passed and our hero has not emerged from the training space even once. She wonders if he is getting any rest and hopes he isn't overexerting himself. Back in the cave, Vincent continues pushing himself, rushing forward again, only for Merlin to stop him effortlessly. As Merlin anticipated, our boy starts thinking strategically when cornered, beginning to merge lightning energy with an unfamiliar swordsmanship. Merlin then forms energy in his hand, observing that Vincent still has a long way to go. Sensing the threat, our protagonist leaps back, but even from that distance, he realizes Merlin's range is vast. The force throws him back, yet he notes that the power isn't as strong as his golden lightning. Still, he wonders how it can have such incredible reach and pressure. Merlin attacks again, warning that admiration alone won't be enough to succeed. But our hero dodges and spots the pendant, making a dash for it, only for Merlin to vanish from his sight. The situation makes Vincent wonder if Merlin is intentionally giving him an opening. Suddenly, he is struck in the ribs and collapses to the ground. Merlin stands over him, thinking that our boy's movements are improving, but he still hasn't made progress with the lightning giant. He grants him a break to drink some water. Our boy sits down, and Julian urges him to hydrate while he can, since it's uncertain when the next break will come. Vincent, however, can't stop thinking about how, no matter how much lightning energy he emits or how wide he spreads it, he cannot surpass that blue lightning. There is a fundamental difference in the nature of the lightning giant's two forms. As he drinks, Julian complains about the small amount of water left in the bottle. Our protagonist reminds him not to complain, since without the bottle, they'd have nothing at all. Mid-sentence, he suddenly shouts that he's figured it out. He had been restricting the lightning energy before releasing it, as if pouring water from a bottle. But there was no need for that. It should flow freely through his body and sword before being released. As he says this, blue lightning finally forms from his body. Merlin smiles, proud that Vincent has achieved it. The lesson isn't over, but the next step remains. He must still destroy the pendant. When Merlin asks if he's ready, our boy answers confidently that he can try. Merlin and our hero continue their intense fight. As our boy manages to dodge Merlin's attack and appears behind him to strike, an explosion erupts. Merlin then notices Vincent darting around with such insane speed that his form is barely visible. He recognizes that Vincent is using Raelsa's skill. Our boy spots an opening and lunges forward, but Merlin blocks him, remarking that he and Raelsa have been friends for years and know each other's attacks well. Calling Vincent unlucky, Merlin throws him back. Our protagonist realizes the great swordsman's attack was disrupted, calling it dangerous. He then notices a scar on Merlin's face, deep and cold, a stark reminder of having been overpowered by an opponent with no chance for healing. The pain, fear, humiliation, and defeat that marks a martial artist. Gripping his sword tighter, our boy rushes forward again and this time successfully snatches the pendant in an instant. As soon as he grabs it, the pendant shatters into pieces. Merlin stands there, wondering if Vincent was targeting the scar and questions how to even describe it. For a 4-year-old, he's quite experienced. Merlin then declares that our boy has passed and is ready to learn Adenka's swordsmanship. When Vincent asks for confirmation, Merlin tells him to look forward to it, warning that it will be far more agonizing than this. A few days later, our boy walks with Selbira, who questions whether he really fought in that enclosed space for over a week, while Sizun calls him incredible. Vincent brushes it off, but Julian points out that young martial artists don't usually train so rigorously. As they walk, Sari appears, calling out for our protagonist. When asked what's wrong, she shows him a paper that was delivered for Vincent. It's a mission objective for a rank 9 candidate, addressed directly to our hero. He finds it odd, since such tasks are normally given to rank 7s. Julian checks the request and sees that it came from the Adenka elders. Meanwhile, Selbira asks if our hero needs someone to go with him, and Sizun is eager as well, since their training has made them stronger. Soon after, inside Pagoda's office, Vincent reveals that he wants to go alone. Merlin questions the decision, and Pagoda adds that acting solo on his first mission could be dangerous. But our boy responds that this is precisely why he must go alone. The elders have thrown this mission at him as a test, or perhaps a trap. Merlin says they're trying to eliminate our hero because he stands in their way, and Pagoda agrees, saying it's too dangerous to send him alone into such a situation. But Vincent calls it a war, declaring that his victory will be to emerge from this trap unharmed. There is a truth he must find by becoming stronger. If he falls victim to a power struggle in the process, he'll have to accept it, since he too is an Adenka. Seeing no way to change his mind, Pagoda finally grants permission, reminding him not to lose composure as a candidate of the Crimson Forest. Our boy agrees and sets off, charging toward Tornique for his mission. Meanwhile, the headmaster lies on the roof when Pagoda teleports there, teasing her about slacking off again. The headmaster calls it a break, but Pagoda says he thought she was interested in managing the candidates. She replies that she's aware Vincent has received a mission, and then asks who is behind it. Pagoda says they call themselves the Elders, but he suspects Elder Tillaven is responsible. The headmaster considers this, knowing there's no good reason Tillaven would send a mission to our hero. Just then, a glowing crystal activates, reporting an emergency in front of the fortress. An unidentified martial artist is insisting on meeting Vincent. Since he refuses to comply, a battle may break out. The young man who wished to join the Crimson Fortress to spar with our boy stands at the gate. Sirkon waits behind him, advising him to follow protocol, but the visitor doesn't want to hold back, saying he's just here to chat. He activates his skills, energy swirling around him as he demands to meet Vincent.